The words hung in the darkness like a loaded gun. "Can I sleep beside you, cowboy?" Jack Callahan's scarred face turned to stone as Anna Porter stood trembling in his doorway, her voice barely a whisper against the howling wind. 3 hours earlier, he'd saved her from drifters in a saloon. Now she was asking for something that could destroy them both, or save them. Welcome to Bitter Creek, where broken souls find each other in the most unexpected ways. Stay with me till the end, and let me know in the comments what town you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this story travels. The dust storm hit Bitter Creek like the wrath of God himself, turning the afternoon sky the color of dried blood. Through that hellish veil rode a man who looked like he'd already been through worse. Jack Callahan sat his horse like a statue carved from grief, his hat pulled low, but not low enough to hide the jagged scar that ran from his left temple down to his jaw, a parting gift from Antietam that had marked him inside and out. The town materialized through the dust like a fever dream. Bitter Creek wasn't much to look at even on its best days, a collection of weather-beaten buildings huddled against the endless Texas plains like they were trying to hide from something. Maybe they were. Most folks who ended up here were running from one thing or another. Jack figured he'd fit right in. His horse, a grizzled bay mare named Redemption, though she'd never lived up to the name, picked her way down the main street with the careful steps of an animal that had learned not to trust anything, not even solid ground. Smart horse. Jack had learned the same lesson, though it had taken him longer and cost him more. The Broken Wheel Saloon squatted at the end of the street like a toad, its batwing doors hanging crooked on rusty hinges. The painted sign above the entrance had faded to illegibility, but everyone knew what it was. In a town like Bitter Creek, the saloon was church, courthouse, and confessional all rolled into one. It was also the only place a man could get whiskey strong enough to make him forget, even if just for a few hours. Jack tied Redemption to the hitching post, his movements economical practiced. Everything about him suggested a man who'd learned to conserve energy for when it really mattered. The Colt, 45 on his hip, sat in a worn holster that had been oiled so many times it was nearly black. The rifle in his saddle scabbard was a Spencer repeater, scarred but clean. Tools of a trade he'd tried to leave behind, but that wouldn't leave him. "Easy, girl," he murmured to the mare, running a calloused hand along her neck. "Won't be long." The horse snorted, clearly skeptical. She'd heard that promise before. Inside the saloon, the air was thick with smoke, and the sour smell of spilled beer mixed with unwashed bodies. It was early evening, that golden hour when the working folks had knocked off, but hadn't yet drunk themselves into stupors. The piano in the corner sat silent. The player wouldn't show up until full dark, when the real drinking began. Jack moved to the bar with the deliberate pace of a man who knew better than to make sudden movements in unfamiliar territory. The bartender, a mountain of a man with arms like ham hocks and a face that had seen too many fists, looked him over with the practiced eye of someone who'd learned to spot trouble before it started. "Whiskey," Jack said, his voice rough from road dust and disuse. "The real stuff, not that rotgut you serve the cowboys." The bartender's eyebrows rose a fraction. "That'll cost you extra." Jack laid a silver dollar on the scarred wood. "Then it's a good thing I'm paying." A ghost of a smile crossed the bartender's face as he reached under the bar and produced a bottle that actually had a label. He poured 2 fingers into a glass that was cleaner than most. Passing through? Maybe. Jack took the glass, feeling the weight of it, the promise of temporary oblivion it held. Maybe not. Man who can't make up his mind about staying or going usually has a reason for both. Jack met the bartender's eyes for a moment, saw understanding there. This was a man who knew about running and staying, about the weight of choices that couldn't be unmade. Sometimes a man just needs to think it over. Fair enough. The bartender moved away to serve another customer, leaving Jack to his whiskey and his ghosts. That's when he saw her. She was sitting at a corner table trying to make herself small, invisible. It might have worked if not for the 3 men circling her like wolves around a wounded deer. Anna Porter, though Jack didn't know her name yet, had the kind of beauty that was a curse in a place like this. Auburn hair that caught the lamplight like copper fire green eyes that held both fear and defiance, and a face that belonged in a portrait gallery, not a frontier saloon. She was wearing a traveling dress that had seen better days, the hem dusty and frayed, but she held herself with a dignity that made the worn fabric look like silk. Her hands were clasped and her lap knuckles white, and Jack could see the slight tremor in her shoulders even from across the room. "Come on, sweetheart," one of the men was saying, his voice oily with false charm. "Pretty thing like you shouldn't be drinking alone. Let old Tom here buy you something better than that water you're nursing." "I'm fine, thank you," Anna replied. Her voice steady despite the fear Jack could see in her eyes. "I'm waiting for someone." "Been waiting an awful long time." Another man chimed in, younger than the first, with the kind of mean streak that showed in the curl of his lip. "Been watching you for near an hour. Ain't nobody coming for you." The third man, silent until now, moved to block her view of the door. He was the dangerous one, Jack could tell. While the other two were drunk on whiskey and bravado, this one was stone-cold sober and enjoying the fear he was causing. "Maybe you should stop waiting for someone who ain't coming and start appreciating the company that's already here." Jack took another sip of his whiskey, trying to tell himself it wasn't his problem. He'd come to Bitter Creek to disappear, not to play hero. Heroes got people killed, usually themselves, sometimes others. He'd learned that lesson in blood and screams on too many battlefields to count. But then Anna looked up and her eyes found his across the room. It wasn't a plea exactly. It was more like recognition, one lost soul seeing another. And damn it all to hell, Jack found himself setting down his glass. He didn't walk over so much as drift like smoke moving through the room. The three men were so focused on their prey they didn't notice him until he was right there standing close enough to the silent one that the man could feel his presence like a cold wind. "Evening, ma'am," Jack said, his voice carrying the kind of quiet authority that came from having nothing left to lose. "Sorry I'm late. Got held up by the storm." Anna's eyes widened for a fraction of a second, then understanding dawned. That's quite all right. I was starting to worry." The silent man turned slowly, his hand drifting toward the pistol on his hip. "This ain't your business, stranger." Jack smiled, and it was the kind of smile that had made hardened soldiers step back during the war. The scar on his face pulled the expression into something that belonged in nightmares. "See, that's where you're wrong, friend. The lady and I have business to discuss, private business." "She didn't mention Tom." The name came out of Jack's mouth like a bullet. "That is your name, isn't it, Tom Hutchins out of Amarillo? Wanted for cattle rustling and 3 counts of murder." The man's face went pale. "How do you—" "And you," Jack turned to the younger one, "would be his brother Billy. Same charges plus that incident with the banker's daughter in Fort Worth. Ugly business, that." Billy's hand went for his gun, but Jack's voice stopped him cold. "You really want to do that, boy? You really want to find out how fast a man can be when he's got nothing to live for and even less to lose?" The silence in the saloon was complete now. Every eye was on the corner table, every breath held. The bartender's hand was under the bar, no doubt, on the scattergun he kept there, but he was waiting to see which way this would go. The silent man, who Jack had correctly identified as the eldest Hutchins brother Samuel, studied Jack with the calculating gaze of a predator, recognizing another predator. "You're him, the one they call Cemetery Jack." Jack's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air like the pressure drop before a tornado. "Nobody's called me that in a long time." "Heard you were dead." "Heard wrong." Samuel considered this, weighing his options. 3 against 1 were good odds in most situations. But Cemetery Jack, the man who'd supposedly killed 17 men in a single night during the range wars, who'd walked out of an ambush that left 8 bushwhackers dead, that changed the mathematics considerably. "This woman worth dying for?" Samuel asked. Jack's smile grew a fraction wider, and somehow that made it worse. "Are you worth dying today? Because that's the real question, isn't it? You can walk out of here right now, all 3 of you, and live to see tomorrow. Or you can push this and find out if the stories about me are true. Your choice." The moment stretched like taffy, the entire saloon balanced on the edge of violence. Then slowly, Samuel stepped back. "Come on, boys. Plenty of other entertainment to be found." Tom and Billy looked like they wanted to argue, but Samuel's look silenced them. They filed out. Tom pausing at the door to spit on the floor and give Jack a look that promised this wasn't over. Jack met his gaze steadily until the bat-wing doors swung shut behind them. The saloon exhaled collectively, conversations resuming in hushed tones. Everyone had just witnessed something they'd be talking about for months. Cemetery Jack, the ghost of the range wars alive and in their town. Jack turned to Anna, and his entire demeanor changed. The dangerous edge melted away, replaced by something almost gentle. "Are you all right, ma'am?" Anna's hands were shaking now that the immediate danger had passed, her body catching up to what her mind had been processing. Yes, thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't. Best not to think about it." Jack pulled out a chair and sat down, putting himself between her and the door. "Can I buy you a real drink? You look like you could use one." I shouldn't, medicinal purposes," Jack said, signaling the bartender, "for the shock." The bartender brought over 2 glasses and, surprisingly, the good bottle. "On the house," he said quietly, "and Cemetery Jack, welcome to Bitter Creek." Jack poured for both of them, noticed how Anna's hand trembled as she took the glass. "Don't call me that," he said to the bartender. "Name's Jack Callahan. The other man. He's dead." The bartender nodded and moved away. Anna took a small sip of the whiskey, coughed, then took another. "Is it true what they called you? Does it matter?" She considered this. "I suppose not. You saved me. That's what matters." "Those men will be back," Jack said, not wanting to give her false hope. "Their kind always come back. You traveling alone?" "Yes." The word came out small, defeated. "That's dangerous territory for a woman alone. Where's your family?" "Dead." She took another sip of whiskey, this one steadier. "Fever took my parents last winter. My brother died in the war. There's no one else." Jack understood that kind of alone. It sat in your chest like a stone, heavy and cold. "Where are you headed?" "I don't know." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I had some money saved, thought I'd head west, find work, maybe. But the stage got robbed 3 days ago. They took everything except what I'm wearing. I've been walking since then, town to town, trying to find what? A reason to keep walking, I suppose." The honesty of it hit Jack like a physical blow. He knew that feeling, that searching for a reason to take the next step, the next breath. "You have a place to stay tonight." "No, I was hoping to find work here, maybe cleaning or cooking something that would come with a room." Jack studied her, this woman who'd held her head high while surrounded by wolves, who'd met his eyes without flinching when she recognized him for what he was. There was steel in her hidden beneath the fear and exhaustion. "I have a cabin," he heard himself saying the words coming out before he could stop them. "About 3 miles north of town. It's not much, but it's got walls and a roof. You could stay there until you figure out your next move." Anna's eyes widened. That wouldn't be proper. Neither is sleeping in an alley, or worse. The cabin's got 2 rooms. You'd have your privacy." "Why?" she asked, and the question held a weight that suggested she'd learned to be suspicious of kindness. "Why would you help me?" Jack was quiet for a long moment, staring into his whiskey like it might hold answers. "Maybe because I remember what it's like to have nowhere to go. Maybe because those Hutchins boys have had it coming for a long time. Or maybe—" He looked up, met her eyes. "Maybe because you didn't scream when you saw what I really am." "And what are you?" "A killer, ma'am, plain and simple. I've got more blood on my hands than you could imagine, and most of it I can't even remember the reasons for anymore. I'm not a good man, but I'm not them." He nodded toward the door where the Hutchins brothers had left. "I don't hurt women, and I don't take what isn't freely given." Anna studied him, really looked at him, past the scar, past the reputation, past the dangerous edge that clung to him like smoke. "You're lonely," she said softly. "That's what you are. You're just lonely." The truth of it hit harder than any bullet ever had. Jack drained his glass to avoid having to respond to that observation. "The offer stands. Take it or leave it." "I'll take it," Anna said, surprising them both. "But just until I can find work in a proper place." "Fair enough." Jack stood, left money on the table for the drinks despite the bartender's offer. "Can you ride a little?" "Good enough. We'll get you a horse from the livery." As they left the saloon, Jack noticed how the other patrons watched him with fear and respect her with curiosity and something like envy. They made an odd pair, the scarred gunman and the auburn-haired beauty, but frontier towns had seen stranger things. Outside, the dust storm had passed, leaving the evening air clear and cool. Stars were just beginning to show in the darkening sky, and somewhere a coyote howled, lonely and distant. "Mr. Callahan," Anna said as they walked toward the livery stable, "I should probably know. Is it true what they said? Did you really kill 17 men in one night?" Jack was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, just as they reached the stable, he said, "It was 19, but who's counting?" The livery stable was run by an old Mexican named Miguel, who had the gift of speaking more to horses than people. He took one look at Jack, another at Anna, and without a word led them to a gentle mare named Buttercup. "She's steady." Miguel said, his accent thick, but his meaning clear. "Won't throw the señorita." "How much?" Jack asked. "For you, Cemetery Jack, no charge. You killed the men who murdered my brother. This debt, it is small compared to what I owe." Jack's jaw tightened. "I told you not to, never mind. Thank you, Miguel. I'll have her back tomorrow." "Or not." Miguel shrugged. "Buttercup, she likes the ladies. Maybe she finds a new home. See." As they prepared to leave town, saddling the horses and checking the supplies Jack had picked up from the general store, using more of his dwindling cash reserves. Anna asked, "Does everyone know you here?" "No, but stories travel fast in small towns. By tomorrow, everyone will know Cemetery Jack is in Bitter Creek. Some will leave. Others will come looking for me." "Looking for you, why?" "To test themselves. To make a name. To collect bounties that may or may not still exist. There's always someone who thinks they're faster, smarter, or luckier than the last man who tried." "And are they—" "Not so far." They rode out of town as the last light faded from the sky, the horses' hooves making soft thuds in the dirt. The trail north was well worn but empty. Most folks didn't travel at night unless they had to. Too many things could go wrong in the dark. "Tell me about your cabin," Anna said, perhaps to fill the silence, perhaps to calm her nerves about riding off into the night with a self-confessed killer. "It's not much," Jack said, his voice carrying easily in the still air. "Used to belong to a trapper. He died or moved on, no one's quite sure which. I bought it from the town for back taxes. It's got thick walls, a good fireplace, and a well that doesn't run dry. The smaller room was probably meant for storage, but I put a cot in there." "How long have you been here?" 6 months, give or take. Longest I've stayed anywhere since the war. Were you planning to settle down?" Jack considered the question. "I was planning to stop moving. Don't know if that's the same thing." They rode in companionable silence for a while, the prairie stretching out around them like a dark ocean. The moon rose 3/4 full, painting everything in silver and shadow. In the distance, they could see the faint glow of other homesteads, little islands of light in the vast darkness. "It's beautiful," Anna said softly. "I've never seen so many stars." "Where are you from originally?" "Philadelphia. My father was a bookkeeper. He got the idea to come west for opportunity, but—" She trailed off. "The frontier has a way of taking as much as it gives," Jack said. "Sometimes more." They created a small rise, and Jack's cabin came into view, a squat, solid structure built from local stone and timber, with a chimney that stood straight despite the constant wind. There was a small corral for the horses and a lean-to that served as a makeshift stable. "It's perfect," Anna said, and something in her voice suggested she meant it. Jack dismounted, first checking the surroundings out of habit before helping Anna down. Her hand in his was small, delicate, but there was strength in her grip. "I'll see to the horses," he said. "Door's not locked. Don't have anything worth stealing. You go on in, get the fire started. Matches are on the mantel." Anna hesitated at the threshold. "Mr. Callahan, Jack, I want you to know how grateful I am. Not just for saving me tonight, but for this, for trusting me." "It's not trust, ma'am, just practicality. You need a place, I have extra room. Simple as that." But Anna saw through the gruffness to something else, something Jack probably didn't even recognize in himself, the need to protect, to be useful, to matter to someone, even if just for a night. Inside the cabin was exactly what Jack had described, functional, sparse, but clean. The main room held a fireplace, a rough-hewn table with 2 chairs, and a shelf with a few books and supplies. The smaller room, visible through an open doorway, contained a narrow cot with a worn but clean blanket. Anna had the fire going by the time Jack came in, the warmth already beginning to chase away the night's chill. He carried in the supplies from town, coffee beans, salt pork, and a few other essentials. "You hungry?" he asked, setting the supplies on the table. "Starving, actually. I haven't eaten since yesterday." Jack's face darkened. "You should have said something. I would have gotten food in town." "I was too proud," Anna admitted. "Stupid, I know. Pride's not stupid. Sometimes it's all that keeps us upright." Jack began preparing a simple meal with practiced efficiency. "Coffee will be ready soon. It's strong enough to float a horseshoe, but it'll warm you up." As he cooked, Anna watched him move around the small space. There was a controlled grace to him, an economy of motion that spoke of years of living in camps and on the trail. The firelight played across his scarred face, sometimes making him look dangerous, sometimes just tired. "Can I ask about the scar?" she said quietly. Jack's hand paused for just a moment as he stirred the beans. "Shrapnel at Antietam. Could have been worse. Man next to me caught the rest of it. Didn't leave enough of him to bury. I'm sorry." "Don't be. I was one of the lucky ones. I walked away." "Did you walk away, I mean?" Jack turned to look at her, something flickering in his eyes. "Body did. The rest, that's still trying to find its way home." They ate in relative silence, both hungrier than they'd admitted. The food was simple but filling, and the coffee was indeed strong enough to wake the dead. As they finished, Anna insisted on cleaning up, needing something to do with her hands. "I'll take the main room," Jack said when she was done. "You take the cot. There's an extra blanket in the chest if you need it." "That doesn't seem fair. It's your home." "I've slept in worse places. Besides, I don't sleep much anyway." Anna moved toward the smaller room, then paused in the doorway. "Jack, what you said earlier about being a killer, not a good man. I don't think that's true. A bad man wouldn't have helped me. A killer wouldn't have given up his bed for a stranger." "You don't know what I've done." "No," she agreed, "but I know what you did today. And today you were a good man." She disappeared into the small room before he could respond, leaving Jack alone with the dying fire and his thoughts. He pulled a chair over to face the door, his rifle across his lap, and settled in for what he knew would be a long night. The Hutchins brothers wouldn't let the embarrassment in the saloon stand. They'd come maybe not tonight, but soon. Around midnight, he heard movement from the other room. Soft footsteps. Then Anna appeared in the doorway, wrapped in the blanket from the cot. Her hair was down now, falling around her shoulders like copper silk, and in the dim light she looked like something out of a dream. "I can't sleep," she said softly. "Every time I close my eyes, I see those men." "It'll pass. Fear always does eventually." "Does it? Or do we just learn to live with it?" Jack didn't have an answer for that. Or rather, he had an answer, but it wasn't one that would help her sleep. Anna moved closer until she was standing just a few feet away. "You're standing guard. Just being careful." "You think they'll come tonight?" "No. They'll wait. Let me think I'm safe, then come when they think I've let my guard down." "But you won't. Let your guard down, I mean." "Haven't in 10 years. Don't see any reason to start now." Anna sat down on the floor near his chair, pulling the blanket tighter around herself. "Tell me something about yourself. Something that isn't about war or killing." Jack was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "I used to play the fiddle. Before the war. My mother taught me. Haven't touched one since Antietam." "Why not?" "Hard to make music with hands that have done what mine have done." "Maybe," Anna said softly, "that's exactly why you should make music, to balance things out." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the fire crackling softly, the wind whispering around the cabin walls. Then Anna said the words that would change everything. Words that came out barely above a whisper. "Can I sleep beside you, cowboy?" Jack went completely still. The question hung in the air between them like something physical, heavy, with implications and possibilities. "That wouldn't be proper," he said, finally, his voice rough. "Nothing about this situation is proper," Anna replied. I'm not asking for anything except not to be alone tonight. Just tonight. Tomorrow I'll be stronger, but tonight I need to know someone's there. Someone who won't hurt me. Someone who understands what it's like to be haunted. Jack looked at her, then really looked at her. Saw the exhaustion, the fear she was trying so hard to hide, the loneliness that matched his own. And despite every instinct that told him to maintain distance, to keep the walls up, he found himself nodding. All right, just for tonight. Anna moved her blanket to the floor beside his chair, curling up like a cat finding a warm spot. Her presence changed the feeling of the room, made it less empty, less cold. For the first time in longer than he could remember, Jack felt something that might have been peace. Jack. Anna's voice was drowsy now, sleep finally claiming her. Yeah. Thank you for everything. Get some sleep, Anna. Tomorrow will come soon enough. As her breathing deepened and steadied, Jack maintained his vigil, but something fundamental had shifted. The cabin didn't feel like a hiding place anymore. It felt tentatively and impossibly like something that might become a home. The night wore on, and Jack found himself thinking about the strange turns life could take. This morning he'd been alone, planning nothing more than drinking enough whiskey to quiet the ghosts for a few hours. Now he had a woman under his protection, the Hutchins brothers as enemies, and a feeling in his chest he didn't quite know what to do with. Outside, a screech owl called its cry, echoing across the prairie. Jack shifted slightly, careful not to disturb Anna, and checked his rifle again. The Hutchins brothers would come men like that always did. But for tonight, in this small circle of firelight, with Anna sleeping peacefully beside him, Jack allowed himself to feel something he hadn't felt in years, protective of something worth protecting. The war had taught him how to destroy. Maybe, just maybe, this woman who'd walked into his life on a wave of dust and danger could teach him something else. Something about building instead of tearing down, about choosing to stand and fight for something instead of just surviving another day. But those were thoughts for tomorrow. Tonight, he had a watch to keep, and for the first time in a decade, a reason to keep it that went beyond his own survival. As the fire died to embers and the night deepened toward morning, Jack Callahan sat guard over Anna Porter, two broken souls finding shelter in each other's presence, while the prairie wind sang its endless song of loneliness and possibility. The first light of dawn was just beginning to paint the eastern sky when Jack heard it, the soft nicker of a horse that wasn't his or Anna's. His hand tightened on the rifle, and he gently shook Anna awake, his hand over her mouth to prevent any sound. Her eyes went wide with fear, then understanding. Jack pointed to the back wall of the cabin where a loose board could be pushed out an escape route he'd built in his first week here. Anna nodded and began to move, but Jack caught her arm. "If shooting starts, you run," he whispered. "Don't look back. Don't wait for me. Get to town. Find Miguel at the livery. He'll protect you. Jack, promise me." "I promise." She lied, and they both knew it. Jack moved to the window, peering through a crack in the shutters. 3 riders approaching slow and careful. The Hutchins brothers, just as he'd expected, but sooner than he'd thought. They must have been angrier than he'd calculated. "Jack Callahan," Tom Hutchins' voice carried across the morning air. "We know you're in there. Send the woman out, and we'll make this quick." Jack smiled grimly. They'd just made a fatal mistake. They'd threatened Anna. That changed this from a simple confrontation to something else entirely, something that would end with blood on the ground before the sun fully rose. "You boys are up early," Jack called back, his voice carrying that same dangerous calm from the saloon. "Must have lost more sleep over yesterday than I thought." "This ain't about yesterday," Samuel's voice now cold and calculating. "This is about respect. You disrespected us in front of the whole town. That requires an answer." "The only thing that requires an answer," Jack replied, "checking his ammunition, is why you 3 aren't smart enough to ride away while you still can." Billy laughed high and nervous. 3 against 1, old man. Even Cemetery Jack can't beat those odds." "Boy," Jack said, and something in his voice made even the horses nervous. "I've put more men in the ground than you've had hot meals. You think you're the first to come looking for a reputation. You're not even the first this month." Anna had moved to the back wall but hadn't left. She'd found the spare pistol Jack kept in a drawer, an old Navy Colt, and was checking the loads with surprising competence. "I told you to run." Jack said without looking at her. And I told you I would. We both lied. Despite everything, Jack almost smiled. You know how to use that. My brother taught me. Said a woman alone should know how to defend herself. Smart man. All right, but you stay low and only shoot if they get past me. They won't get past you. Her faith in him was touching and terrifying in equal measure. Jack had survived this long by not having anyone depend on him, by not caring about collateral damage. Now he had something to lose, and that made him both more dangerous and more vulnerable. Last chance, Callahan, Samuel called. Send her out, or we'll burn you both. That was another mistake. Jack could see them from his position, but they couldn't see him. They were still mounted, grouped too close together, classic amateur error. They thought they were dealing with a scared man in a defensive position. They were about to learn why Cemetery Jack had earned his name. Jack burst through the door like Judgment Day itself, the Spencer rifle bucking in his hands. His first shot took Billy in the chest, spinning him from his saddle. The second caught Tom in the shoulder as he tried to draw. Samuel, the smart one, had already rolled from his horse, but Jack was moving, always moving, making himself a hard target while his shots stayed true. Tom, wounded but not out, managed to get his pistol clear and fired twice. One bullet sparked off the stone wall of the cabin, the other tugged at Jack's shirt. Then Anna's Navy Colt boomed from the doorway, and Tom jerked, looking down in surprise at the spreading red stain on his chest, before toppling forward. Samuel had made it to cover behind the water trough, and now it was a waiting game. Jack crouched behind the corner of the cabin, reloading the Spencer with practiced ease. Your brothers are dead, Samuel, Jack called out. This doesn't have to be your day to die. You killed my kin. Samuel's voice was raw with rage and grief. This doesn't end until one of us is in the ground. So be it. What happened next would be debated in Bitter Creek for years. Some said Jack moved faster than a man had a right to. Others said Samuel hesitated at the crucial moment. The truth was simpler and more complex. Jack had been in 100 fights like this, and Samuel had only imagined them. Samuel rose from behind the trough pistol, sweeping toward the cabin. Jack stepped out from cover, the rifle already at his shoulder. 2 shots rang out as one. Samuel's went wide, shattering a window. Jack's took Samuel's center mass, dropping him like a puppet with cut strings. The silence that followed was deafening. Gun smoke drifted across the yard like morning fog, and somewhere a meadowlark sang, oblivious to the violence that had just shattered the dawn. Jack stood slowly, rifle still ready, approaching each body with professional caution. Only when he was certain all 3 were dead did he lower the weapon. Anna emerged from the cabin, the Navy Colt hanging loose in her hand, her face pale but determined. Are you hurt? Jack looked down at his shirt where Tom's bullet had passed through, leaving a tear but no blood. No. She looked at the bodies, then at Jack. I killed a man. You saved my life. There's a difference. Is there? Jack met her eyes. Yes. Trust me on that if nothing else. They stood there in the morning light, surrounded by death, and something passed between them, an understanding, a recognition of what they'd each do to protect the other. It had been less than 12 hours since they'd met, but violence had a way of compressing time, of revealing truths that might otherwise take years to surface. We need to get these bodies to town, Jack said, practical as always. There'll be questions. Will there be trouble? Legal trouble, I mean. No, the Hutchins brothers were wanted men. If anything, there'll be a bounty. He paused, looking at her. That shot you made, that was good shooting. I was aiming for his arm. Despite everything, Jack laughed, a rusty sound like machinery long unused, suddenly spinning to life. Well, you hit what needed hitting. That's what counts. As they loaded the bodies onto the horses, Anna asked, what happens now? They'll have friends, family. Others will come. Maybe. Probably. Jack secured the last body, his movements efficient but respectful. Even enemies deserve that much. You should leave. Get on the next stage out of town. I'll give you money. No. The word was soft but firm. Jack turned to look at her. No, Anna repeated. I'm not running. Not anymore. I've been running since my family died, looking for somewhere to belong, something to fight for. Maybe this is it. This is a hard life, Anna. Dangerous. As opposed to being a woman alone on the frontier, at least here I have what? You, she said simply. I have you, and you have me whether you want to admit it or not. Jack wanted to argue to explain why this was a bad idea, why getting close to him was like standing next to a lightning rod in a storm. But looking at her strong, despite her fear, determined, despite the blood on her hands, he found he couldn't. All right, he said finally, but we do this smart. We make the cabin more defensible. We get you proper training with that pistol, and we watch each other's backs. Partners? Anna extended her hand. Jack looked at her hand for a long moment, then took it. Her grip was firm, her skin calloused from work, but still somehow soft. Partners. As they rode toward town with their grim cargo, the sun climbed higher, burning off the morning mist. Birds sang in the mesquite bushes, and the prairie stretched endlessly in all directions, full of danger and possibility in equal measure. Neither of them knew it yet, but this was the beginning of something larger than either of them, a partnership that would become a marriage that would become a legend. The story of Cemetery Jack and the woman who tamed him, who stood beside him against outlaws and rangers alike, who helped him build something worth defending in a land that seemed determined to tear everything down. But that was all to come. For now, they were just two damaged people riding toward town with 3 dead men and a fragile alliance born of violence and necessity. The kind of beginning that the frontier specialized in, brutal, uncertain, but with the faint possibility of becoming something beautiful if given the chance to grow. As they created the rise that brought Bitter Creek into view, Anna spoke again. Jack, last night, when I asked to sleep beside you, thank you for understanding, for not making it into something it wasn't. We all need to not be alone sometimes, Jack replied. Nothing wrong with that. Most men wouldn't see it that way. I'm not most men. No. Anna agreed, a small smile playing at her lips despite the morning's violence. You're certainly not. They rode on in companionable silence, two unlikely allies bound by blood and a promise of partnership, while behind them the sun rose fully, casting long shadows that pointed toward a future neither could quite see, but both were suddenly willing to fight for. The ride back to town, with 3 corpses draped over saddles, drew every eye in Bitter Creek, but it was the sight of Anna Porter riding beside Cemetery Jack that really set tongues wagging. Women peered from behind curtains while men stopped their work to stare, and by the time they reached the sheriff's office, a small crowd had gathered. Sheriff Wade Garrison stepped out onto the boardwalk, his tin star catching the morning sun. He was a careful man who'd survived 10 years wearing a badge by knowing when to push and when to step aside. One look at the bodies, and he knew this was a stepping aside kind of morning. Jack, he said, nodding slowly. Miss Porter, I'm guessing there's a story here. The Hutchins brothers came calling at dawn, Jack said, dismounting with the same economy of movement that marked everything he did. They didn't leave us much choice. Us. The sheriff's eyebrows rose as he noticed the Navy Colt tucked into Anna's waistband. The lady had to defend herself. Jack said, his tone suggesting that was all the explanation anyone was getting. Tom Hutchins took her shot. The other 2 are mine. Sheriff Garrison walked over to examine the bodies, professional despite the growing crowd. Clean shots, all of them. They draw first. They threatened to burn us out, Anna said, speaking for the first time. Her voice was steady, but Jack could see the slight tremor in her hands. Said they'd kill us both if I didn't come out. That sounds like the Hutchins boys, the sheriff agreed. Never did know when to fold a losing hand. He looked back at Jack. There's paper on all 3 of them. Bounty comes to about $600 total. Give it to the lady, Jack said immediately. She needs it more than I do. Anna started to protest, but something in Jack's expression stopped her. This was about more than money. It was about establishing her as someone to be respected, not just Cemetery Jack's woman. I'll have the paperwork ready this afternoon, the sheriff said. He paused, studying them both. You know this won't be the end of it. The Hutchins boys ran with a bigger crew, Cole Morrison's bunch out of the Badlands. I know, Jack said simply. Just so we're clear, I can't protect you if Morrison comes to town with his full gang. I've got 1 deputy, and he's 60 years old with bad eyes. Not asking for protection, Sheriff. Just fair treatment under the law. Garrison nodded slowly. That you'll get. But Jack, be careful. This town's been peaceful for a while. People like it that way. As the crowd began to disperse, the undertaker arriving with his wagon to collect the bodies, Jack noticed Anna swaying slightly in her saddle. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving exhaustion and shock in its wake. "Come on," he said quietly. "Let's get you somewhere you can sit down." He led her not to the saloon but to Martha's boarding house, a respectable establishment run by a widow who'd buried 2 husbands and had no patience for nonsense. Martha Daniels took one look at Anna's pale face and immediately went into mother hen mode. "Poor dear, you look dead on your feet. Come on, I've got a room you can rest in. Mr. Callahan, you can wait in the parlor like a proper gentleman." "She stays with me," Jack said firmly. "No offense, Mrs. Daniels, but until we know who else might be looking for trouble, she doesn't leave my sight." Martha looked like she wanted to argue about propriety, but something in Jack's expression changed her mind. "At least let me bring you both some food and coffee. You look like you haven't had a decent meal in days." While Martha bustled off to her kitchen, Jack guided Anna to a quiet corner of the parlor. She sank into a chair with visible relief, and for a moment neither of them spoke. "It doesn't feel real," Anna finally said. "This morning I killed a man, and now I'm sitting in a parlor like nothing happened." "That's the frontier for you," Jack replied. "Life and death violence and tea service all mixed together like it makes sense." "Does it ever make sense to you?" "No, but I stopped expecting sense a long time ago." Martha returned with a tray loaded with eggs, biscuit gravy, and coffee strong enough to raise the dead. Anna ate mechanically at first, then with growing appetite as her body remembered it needed fuel. "Mrs. Daniels," Jack said as the older woman poured coffee. "What can you tell me about Cole Morrison's gang?" Martha's lips pursed. "Bad news, that bunch. Maybe 15-20 men, though the number changes. They hole up in the Badlands between raids hitting stagecoaches, rustling cattle, worse things when the mood strikes them. The Hutchins boys were probably their scouts in town." "How long before word reaches them?" "A day, maybe 2. Depends on if anyone rides out to tell them." Jack nodded, his mind already working through possibilities. "I need to send some telegrams. Can you stay with Anna for an hour?" "I don't need a babysitter," Anna protested. "No, but you need someone watching your back while I'm gone. Mrs. Daniels, you still keep that scattergun behind the front desk." Martha smiled grimly. "Loaded with rock salt and buckshot, just like my second husband taught me." "Good. Anyone comes asking about Miss Porter, you haven't seen her." Jack left them there, 2 women united in their suspicion of his protective instincts, and made his way to the telegraph office. The operator, a nervous man named Pennyworth, nearly jumped out of his skin when Cemetery Jack walked through his door. "I need to send 3 messages," Jack said, laying money on the counter. "And I need them sent now, no delays." The first telegram went to Fort Worth to a man Jack had ridden with during the range wars. The second went to Austin to a Texas Ranger who owed him a favor. The third went to Denver, though Jack didn't explain why. Each message was brief, coded in language only the recipients would understand. "They're going to be trouble, Mr. Callahan?" Pennyworth asked as he tapped out the messages. "Already been trouble. Now we're just waiting to see how much more is coming." Back at the boarding house, Jack found Anna and Martha deep in conversation, their heads bent together like conspirators. They stopped talking when he entered, which told him everything he needed to know about the subject matter. "Telegram sent," he said. "Now, we need supplies." The rest of the morning was spent in preparation. Jack bought ammunition enough to withstand a siege if necessary. Anna, despite his protests, used some of her own money she'd had a few dollars hidden in her boot to purchase practical clothing more suited to frontier life than her traveling dress. Martha helped her pick out sturdy boots, split skirts for riding, and a hat that would actually protect her from the sun. At the general store, old Sam Pickens watched them shopping together with knowing eyes. "Planning on staying a while, Miss Porter?" "That depends," Anna replied, surprising Jack with her directness on whether the town wants me to stay. "Town could use more good women," Sam said, "especially ones who can shoot straight when needed. My wife would like to meet you if you're interested. She runs the church auxiliary, organizes the socials." It was an olive branch, an invitation into the respectable side of town society. Anna accepted, graciously understanding the importance of allies beyond Jack's gun. As they loaded their purchases onto the horses, Jack noticed several rough-looking men lounging outside the saloon, watching them with interested eyes. None of them were Morrison's men Jack knew. Most of that crew by sight, but they were the kind of drifters who might carry news for the right price. "We're being watched," Anna said quietly, proving she was learning fast. "Let them watch. Sometimes being visible is better than hiding." They rode back to the cabin in the afternoon heat, both alert for any sign of ambush. But the prairie was quiet except for the buzz of insects and the distant cry of a hawk. At the cabin, the blood from the morning's violence had already dried to dark stains in the dirt. "We'll need to clean that up," Anna said. "Leave it," Jack replied. "Let anyone who comes calling see what happened to the last group that tried to cause trouble." They spent the afternoon fortifying the cabin. Jack showed Anna where he'd hidden extra weapons and ammunition, explained the sight lines from each window, demonstrated how the loose board in the back could be used for escape. She absorbed it all with the focused intensity of someone who understood her life might depend on these lessons. As evening approached, Jack started preparing dinner while Anna practiced with the Navy Colt shooting at targets he'd set up behind the cabin. Her aim improved with each round, though she still pulled slightly to the left when nervous. "You're anticipating the recoil," Jack called out. "Let it surprise you. The shot should come between heartbeats when you're not expecting it." Anna adjusted her stance, breathed out slowly, and squeezed the trigger. The bottle she'd been aiming at exploded in a shower of glass. "Better," Jack said. "Do it again." She went through a full cylinder, hitting 4 out of 6 targets. When she came back to the cabin, there was a new confidence in her walk, a subtle change that Jack recognized. She was starting to believe she could defend herself. Dinner was simple beans and salt pork again, with some canned peaches Jack had bought as a small luxury. They ate on the porch, watching the sun set over the prairie, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. "It's beautiful," Anna said. "I never really noticed sunsets in Philadelphia. Too many buildings in the way. Too many other things to worry about. Here it feels like the whole world stops to watch." "That's one of the good things about the frontier," Jack agreed. "The beauty is bigger, sharper. Of course, so is everything else, the danger, the loneliness, the distance between you and help when you need it." "Were you lonely? Jack considered the question. "I thought I was just alone. There's a difference, though. I didn't know it until what? Until you asked to sleep beside me last night." The admission hung between them more intimate than any physical touch could have been. Anna set down her plate and turned to face him fully. "I meant what I said this morning, about partnership. But I need to know, what are we building here, Jack? What are we to each other?" "I don't know," he said honestly. "I haven't had anyone to matter to in so long. I'm not sure I remember how it works. Maybe we figure it out together, day by day." "That's a lot of trust to put in a man like me." "You keep saying that, a man like me. But I see who you are, Jack Callahan. You're a man who'll stand between a woman and danger. A man who gives up his bed for a stranger. A man who's trying so hard to be bad that he can't see the good that's still there. The good got burned out of me at Antietam, Anna. What's left is just habit and stubbornness." Anna stood, moving to stand in front of him, forcing him to meet her eyes. "Then how do you explain this morning? You could have let the Hutchins boys have me. It would have been safer for you. That was never an option." "Why not?" Jack stood abruptly, pacing to the edge of the porch. The answer was there, right on the edge of his consciousness, but saying it out loud felt like stepping off a cliff. "Because," he said finally, "when you looked at me in that saloon, you didn't see Cemetery Jack. You didn't see a killer or a ghost or a cautionary tale. You just saw a man. Do you know how long it's been since anyone looked at me that way?" Anna moved to stand beside him, not touching, but close enough that he could feel her warmth. "And when you look at me, what do you see? Someone worth protecting. Someone strong enough to stand beside me, but soft enough to remind me why standing matters. Someone who makes me want to be better than I am." "Then be better," Anna said simply. "We both will. That's what partnership means." As full dark settled over the prairie, they prepared for the night. This time Jack didn't protest when Anna brought her blanket into the main room, setting it near his chair where he'd keep watch. It was becoming a routine already, this careful dance of proximity and propriety. "You should sleep," Jack said. "Tomorrow we'll start working on your rifle skills." "What about you? You didn't sleep at all last night." "I told you I don't sleep much." When was the last time you had a full night's rest? Jack had to think about it. Maybe 6 months ago. Got drunk enough to pass out, woke up 8 hours later feeling worse than if I'd stayed awake. That's not healthy. Neither is getting killed because I was sleeping when trouble came calling. Anna was quiet for a moment, then said, "What if I kept watch for part of the night? You could sleep for a few hours, then we'd switch." "You don't know what to watch for." "Then teach me." It was a reasonable suggestion, but the idea of letting his guard down, of trusting someone else with his safety, made Jack's chest tight with anxiety. "Maybe in a few days," he said, "after you've had more training." Anna didn't push, recognizing this was already more than he'd probably agreed to with anyone in years. She settled onto her blanket, the Navy Colt, within easy reach, and watched the fire die down to embers. "Jack," she said sleepily, "what happened at Antietam?" "Really?" Jack was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then his voice barely above a whisper. "I was in charge of a company. Good men, most of them just boys, really. We were ordered to hold a position a little rise overlooking a cornfield. Seemed simple enough, but the Rebs had artillery we didn't know about. When they opened up, it was like the gates of hell. Shrapnel canisters shot everything they had. My men, they just disappeared. One moment they were there, the next, they were pink mist and screaming." He paused, his hands gripping the rifle so tight his knuckles went white. "I should have pulled them back, should have recognized it was a killing field, but I followed orders, held the position. Out of 60 men, 8 walked away. 8. The rest died because I wasn't smart enough or brave enough to tell my superiors they were wrong. That wasn't your fault. Wasn't it I was their officer? Their lives were my responsibility, and I failed them. The scar on my face. That's nothing compared to the scars you can't see." Anna sat up, reached out, and gently touched his hand. "You were following orders in an impossible situation. You couldn't have known, but I should have. That's what haunts me, Anna. Not that they died, but that they died for nothing. That rise we were holding, command abandoned it 2 hours later. Wasn't strategically important after all. Is that why you left? Why you became Cemetery Jack?" "Yeah. Figured if I was going to be responsible for deaths, they might as well be people who deserved it. Started hunting bounties, taking on the kind of men the law couldn't or wouldn't touch. Thought maybe if I killed enough bad men, it might balance out the good ones I got killed. Did it? No. Turns out the scales don't work that way. Dead is dead, whether they're farm boys from Ohio or rustlers from Texas." They sat in silence, Anna's hand still on his, a small point of warmth in the darkness. Finally she spoke. "Maybe it's not about balancing scales. Maybe it's about choosing to do better tomorrow than you did yesterday. Maybe it's about protecting the living instead of avenging the dead. That's a nice thought. It's more than a thought. It's what you did today. You protected me, taught me to protect myself. That's building something, not tearing it down." Before Jack could respond, a sound from outside made him tense. Hoofbeats moving fast, coming from the direction of town. He was on his feet instantly, rifle ready, pushing Anna back into the shadows. "Stay down and stay quiet," he whispered. The rider came into view in the moonlight, a single figure slumped in the saddle. As the horse got closer, Jack recognized the rider, Deputy Barnes, the sheriff's 60-year-old assistant. There was blood on his shirt. Jack rushed out, catching Barnes as he nearly fell from the saddle. "What happened?" "Morrison," Barnes gasped. "He hit the town, looking for you and the woman. Sheriff's dead. Martha Daniels, too. She wouldn't tell them where you were." Anna made a sound of distress behind them. Martha, who'd been so kind to her just hours ago, dead because she wouldn't betray them. "How many?" Jack asked, helping Barnes inside. 12, maybe 15. They shot up the saloon, burned the telegraph office. Said they'll keep killing until you come face them. They're waiting in town." Jack's face went cold and hard, becoming the mask that had earned him his reputation. "When 2 hours ago, I slipped out to warn you, but Morrison's men saw me leave. They'll probably follow. Can you ride?" "If I have to." "Anna, pack what you can carry. We're leaving. We're running." There was no judgment in her voice, just surprise. "We're choosing better ground. Morrison wants a fight, he'll get one. But on my terms, not his." As Anna quickly gathered supplies, Jack helped Barnes clean and bandage his wound to graze along his ribs, painful but not fatal. The old deputy looked at him with tired eyes. "You don't have to do this, Jack. It's not your fight." "It became my fight when I decided to stand my ground. Besides, they killed Martha. That's not something I can let pass." "The Rangers won't be here for days if they come at all. No, this ends tomorrow." Anna returned with 2 packed saddlebags and her medical supplies. She changed into the practical clothes she'd bought the Navy Colt strapped to her hip. In the moonlight, with her hair pulled back and her face set with determination, she looked like someone who'd been born to this life. "Where are we going?" she asked. "There's an old mission about 5 miles north," Jack said. "Abandoned, but the walls are still solid. We'll make our stand there." As they prepared to leave, Jack took one last look around the cabin. He'd thought it would be his refuge, his place to disappear. Instead, it had become the place where he'd started to live again. Strange how life could change in just 2 days. They rode out into the night, 3 unlikely allies against impossible odds. Behind them, the cabin stood empty, waiting. Ahead, the old mission waited too, its ruins about to become a battlefield. As they rode, Anna moved her horse closer to Jack's. "What you said earlier about me making you want to be better, you make me want to be braver. I was ready to give up when you found me in that saloon. Now I'm ready to fight." "Might not survive this fight." "Then at least I'll die standing for something besides someone who matters." Jack looked at her, this remarkable woman who'd walked into his life and refused to walk out despite every reason to run. "After this is over, if we're still breathing, we need to talk about what comes next." "What do you mean?" "I mean, you deserve better than sleeping on the floor beside my chair. You deserve a proper life with a proper what, Jack?" He couldn't say the word husband, but she understood anyway. "Let's survive tomorrow first," she said. "Then we can talk about the rest of our lives." The old mission came into view, its bell tower broken but still standing, its walls thick adobe that had weathered 100 years of sun and storm. It would do. As they dismounted, Barnes whistled low. "This is a good spot. Morrison will have to come at us across open ground." "That's the idea," Jack said, already mentally mapping firing positions. "Anna, you and Barnes take the bell tower. You'll have the best view from there. I'll hold the main entrance." "You can't face 15 men alone." "I won't be alone. You'll be covering me. Besides, I've got a few surprises for Mr. Morrison." They worked through the remaining darkness, setting up positions, checking weapons, preparing for what would likely be the last sunrise one or more of them would see. Jack showed Anna how to lead a moving target, how to use the rifle's sights effectively, at distance. Barnes, despite his wound, proved to be a steady presence, calm and methodical in his preparations. As dawn approached, painting the eastern sky pale pink, Jack found himself standing beside Anna on the mission's wall, looking out over the approach Morrison would have to take. "I'm scared," Anna admitted quietly. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Just remember what I taught you. Breathe, squeeze, don't pull, and keep shooting until there's nothing left to shoot at. Jack, if something happens, nothing's going to happen to you, I promise." "You can't promise that. Watch me." She turned to face him fully, and before he could react, she rose up on her toes and kissed him soft, quick, but with a promise of more if they survived this day. "For luck," she said, then hurried to her position before he could respond. Jack stood there for a moment, stunned, his fingers touching his lips where she'd kissed him. It had been so long since anyone had shown him tenderness that he'd forgotten what it felt like. Then Barnes called out from the tower, "Riders coming. Looks like the whole gang." Jack moved to his position, checking his weapons one last time. The Spencer rifle fully loaded, the Colt on his hip, a second one tucked into his belt, a scattergun loaded with buckshot for when things got close, and a few other surprises he'd prepared during the night. Morrison's gang came into view, spreading out in a rough line as they approached. Cole Morrison himself rode in the center, a big man with a black beard and cold eyes. Jack had crossed paths with him once before years ago. Morrison had backed down then. He wouldn't today. "Callahan," Morrison's voice boomed across the distance. "Send out the woman, and we'll make this quick." "Counter offer," Jack called back. "You and your boys turn around and ride away, and I'll only kill half of you." Someone in Morrison's gang laughed, but it sounded nervous. Cemetery Jack's reputation preceded him. You killed 3 of my men. They came to my home with threats and violence. They got what they deserved. Same as you will if you don't ride away right now." Morrison raised his hand and Jack knew the talking was over. "Take them." The gang charged forward, guns blazing, and the battle for the old mission began. Jack's first shot took a rider from his saddle. Anna's rifle cracked from the tower and another man fell. Barnes's steady fire dropped a third. But there were too many, and they kept coming. Jack worked the Spencer's lever action smoothly, picking his targets, making every shot count. The morning air filled with gun smoke and the screams of horses and men. 3 riders made it to the mission walls. Jack grabbed the scattergun, meeting them at the entrance. The first man through the doorway took both barrels, the force throwing him backward into his companions. Jack drew his Colt, the familiar weight settling into his hand like an old friend, and the dance of death began in earnest. From the tower, Anna watched Jack move through the attackers like a force of nature. There was no wasted motion, no hesitation. He was everything the stories said: deadly, efficient, unstoppable. But she could also see what others might miss. He was protecting the tower, keeping himself between the attackers and her position. A rider tried to flank them, heading for the tower's base. Anna tracked him, led him just like Jack had taught her, and squeezed the trigger. The man tumbled from his horse and she immediately worked the rifle's action, looking for the next target. The battle raged for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Then suddenly, silence. Jack stood in the mission courtyard, surrounded by bodies, blood on his shirt that might or might not be his own. Of Morrison's gang, only 4 remained, including Morrison himself. They sat their horses just out of effective range, clearly reconsidering their options. "Morrison," Jack called out, reloading as he talked, "you've lost over half your men. Cut your losses and ride away." Morrison's response was to dismount, walking forward with his hands away from his guns. "I call for single combat, you and me, Callahan. Winner takes all, and Jack, no." Anna called from the tower, but Jack was already walking out to meet Morrison. "Terms, Jack asked. "Pistols, first blood or death. Your woman goes free if I win. And if I win, then you've got no more problems from me or mine." They faced each other in the morning sun, 2 killers with everything and nothing to lose. Morrison was fast, Jack knew, but fast wasn't always enough. "Draw when ready," Morrison said. The moment stretched like molten glass. A hawk cried overhead. The wind whispered through the mission ruins. Then movement too fast for the eye to properly follow. The crack of 2 pistols firing. Morrison staggered, looking down at the spreading red stain on his chest. His gun was only halfway out of its holster. "How?" he gasped, falling to his knees. "You were thinking about winning," Jack said quietly. "I was just thinking about the next breath." Morrison fell forward, and his remaining men immediately turned their horses and fled, wanting no part of Cemetery Jack after what they'd witnessed. Jack stood there for a moment, then his knees buckled. Anna was running from the tower barns, limping behind her. She caught Jack as he fell, seeing now the blood seeping from his side where one of Morrison's gang had gotten lucky. "You're hurt." "Had worse," Jack said, though his face was pale. "Just need to rest a moment." Anna went into action, her hand steady as she cut away his shirt to examine the wound. The bullet had passed through, missing anything vital, but he was losing blood. "Barnes, bring my medical supplies," she ordered, pressing her torn petticoat against the wound. "Jack, you stay with me, you hear? You don't get to die now, not after all this." "Bossy," Jack muttered, but there was affection in it. As Anna worked to stop the bleeding, Jack reached up and touched her face. "You did good up there, kept them off my flank. Partners remember we watch each other's backs." "Anna, what you did before the fight, the kiss, yeah, that. What about it? When this is over, when I'm patched up, I'd like to do that proper, court you the right way." Despite everything, Anna laughed. "Jack Callahan, are you proposing to court me while bleeding from a gunshot wound?" "Seems as good a time as any. Man ought to say what needs saying when he has the chance." Barnes returned with the supplies, and Anna set to work properly cleaning and bandaging the wound. As she worked, she said, "Yes." "Yes what?" "Yes, you can court me. Though after all this, it seems a bit redundant." You deserve better than redundant. You deserve flowers and Sunday dinners and all the proper things. Jack, Anna said, tying off the bandage. I've had proper. Proper is boring. I'll take improper with you over proper with anyone else. Barnes cleared his throat. Not to interrupt, but we should get him back to town. He needs rest and real medical attention. They rigged a travois for Jack, who protested he could ride until he tried to stand and nearly passed out. The journey back to Bitter Creek was slow, with Anna riding beside the travois, her rifle across her lap, watching for any sign of Morrison's remaining men. But the prairie was peaceful, as if the violence of the morning had never happened. The sun climbed higher, warming the air, and somewhere a meadowlark sang its liquid song. Anna, Jack said, his voice rough with pain and exhaustion. Save your strength. No, this is important. The third telegram I sent it was to a judge in Denver, a friend from before the war. I asked him about the legal requirements for marriage in the territory. Anna's hands tightened on her reins. And he'll be coming through in 2 weeks on circuit. If you're willing, he could perform the ceremony. Jack Callahan, is that your idea of a proposal? I'm not good with words, Anna, but I know I don't want to face another fight without you beside me. I know I sleep better with you near, and I know that you make me want to be the man you seem to think I am. Anna stopped. Her horse climbed down and knelt beside the travois. You infuriating man. Yes, I'll marry you, but you have to promise me something. What? No more sleeping in chairs, no more standing guard all night. We face whatever comes together as equals. That's a hard promise for a man like me. Then I guess you'll have to become a different kind of man. Jack reached up his hand, finding hers. I guess I will. As they continued toward town, Barnes riding ahead to prepare people for their arrival, Anna held Jack's hand and thought about the strange turns life could take. 3 days ago, she'd been alone, desperate, ready to give up. Now she had a partner, a future, and a man who'd face down impossible odds to keep her safe. The town came into view, and Anna could see people gathering word of their victory already spreading. There would be questions, congratulations, probably some judgment from those who thought their relationship too fast, too improper. But none of that mattered. What mattered was the man on the travois still holding her hand despite his pain. What mattered was the life they'd build together, one day at a time, one challenge at a time. Jack, she said softly. Yeah? Thank you. For what? For letting me sleep beside you that first night, for seeing me as more than a victim, for giving me a chance to be brave. Anna, you were always brave. You just needed the opportunity to show it. As they entered Bitter Creek, the townspeople lining the streets, Anna smiled. Tomorrow there would be healing to oversee a wedding, to plan a life to build. But today they'd survived. They'd won. And most importantly, they'd found each other. The broken soldier and the desperate woman had become something neither expected: partners, fighters, and soon family. It wasn't the life either of them had planned, but as Jack squeezed her hand and smiled through his pain, Anna knew it was the life they were meant to have. The doctor's house smelled of carbolic acid and whiskey, the strange mixture that marked places where life and death wrestled for supremacy. Jack lay on the examination table, his face pale, but his eyes alert, watching Anna pace the small room like a caged mountain cat. Doc Harrison, a man who'd learned his trade in the Union Army and never quite lost the battlefield urgency, worked with steady hands to clean and stitch the wound properly. You're lucky Callahan, the doctor said, threading another suture through torn flesh. Inch to the left, and we'd be having a different conversation, or not having one at all. I've heard that before, Jack replied through gritted teeth. I imagine you have. Doc Harrison glanced at Anna. Your woman did good work with the field dressing. Probably saved your life. She's good at that, Jack said, his eyes finding Anna's. Saving me. Anna stopped pacing and moved to take his hand. Someone has to. You're terrible at it yourself. The doctor finished his work and stepped back, wiping his hands on a blood-stained cloth. You'll need to rest for at least a week. No riding, no fighting, no anything that might tear those stitches. A week. Jack started to sit up, winced, and thought better of it. Doc, there's still 4 of Morrison's men out there. And they're running for Mexico if they have any sense, Doc Harrison interrupted. The whole town saw what you did. Word's already spreading. Nobody's going to bother Bitter Creek for a good long while. As if to emphasize his point, voices drifted in from the street outside. The surviving townspeople had gathered, some to gawk, others to pay their respects. Through the window, Anna could see the devastation Morrison's gang had wrought. The telegraph office was a charred ruin. The saloon's windows were all broken, and there were fresh graves being dug in the cemetery. "Martha Daniels," Anna said softly. "She died because of us." "She died because she was brave," Jack corrected. "Don't take that away from her by making it about us." Barnes, who'd been standing guard by the door despite his own injuries, spoke up. "Martha always said she'd rather die standing than live kneeling. She got her wish." The door opened and several townspeople entered, led by Sam Pickens from the general store. They looked uncertain, the way people do when approaching something dangerous that might also be salvation. "Mr. Callahan," Sam began, hat in hand, "we wanted to thank you, both of you. What you did today—" "We did what needed doing," Jack said. "Nothing more." "It was more to us," said a woman Anna recognized as the seamstress. "Sheriff Garrison is dead, so's his deputy Wilson. Martha too, and 3 others who tried to fight back. If you hadn't stopped Morrison—" "The town would like to offer you something," Sam continued. "The sheriff's position. It comes with a salary, a house, and the town's backing." Well, Jack almost laughed, but it would have hurt too much. "You want to make Cemetery Jack your sheriff?" "We want to make Jack Callahan our sheriff," Sam corrected. "The man who protected a woman he'd just met. The man who faced down impossible odds for a town that barely knew him. That's the sheriff we need." "I'm no lawman." "Neither was Garrison when he started. He learned. You could too." Anna felt Jack's hand tighten in hers. She knew what he was thinking, that he was a killer, not a protector, that wearing a badge would be a lie. But she also knew what she'd seen in him over the past 3 days. "Could we have some time to discuss it?" Anna asked. "It's a big decision." The townspeople agreed and filed out, leaving them alone with Doc Harrison and Barnes. The doctor busied himself with cleaning his instruments, while Barnes found a chair and sat heavily, his own wound clearly paining him. "You should take it," Barnes said after a moment. "The town needs someone strong. The town needs someone better than me." "No," Barnes said firmly. "The town needs exactly you. Someone who scares the bad elements enough that they think twice. Someone who's fast enough to back up the badge. And someone with something to protect." He looked meaningfully at Anna. Doc Harrison spoke up while packing his medical bag. "There's something else you should know. The town council met while you were fighting Morrison. They've authorized a reward, the bounty on Morrison and his gang, plus a collection from the merchants. It comes to about $2,000. Anna gasped. It was more money than she'd ever imagined having, enough to start over anywhere to build something real. "That's yours, Miss Porter," the doctor continued. "Or should I say, soon to be Mrs. Callahan. Word travels fast in a small town." "How did you—" "Barnes mentioned something about a judge coming from Denver." The doctor smiled. "My wife's already planning the reception. The whole town will want to celebrate. We haven't had good news in so long. People need something joyful." After the doctor left, Barnes dozed in his chair, exhausted from the morning's events. Anna sat on the edge of the examination table, careful not to jostle Jack's wound. $2,000, she said softly. "We could go anywhere. California, Oregon, even back east if you wanted." "Is that what you want to leave?" Anna considered the question. 3 days ago, I'd have said yes. But now, this place is starting to feel like it could be home. These people, they're not judging me for being with you, for fighting. They're accepting us. Even knowing what I am, because of what you are. Jack, you keep seeing yourself as the villain in everyone's story. But to this town, you're the hero. Maybe it's time you started seeing yourself that way too. Jack was quiet for a long moment, then said, "If I take the badge, things will change. Every drifter, every gunslinger looking to make a name will come here. The violence won't end, it'll just have my name on it. Then we face it together, like we did today. You could have been killed today. So could you. That's life out here, badge or no badge. At least as sheriff, you'd have the law on your side. And a house," she added with a small smile. "A real house, not a cabin with me sleeping on the floor." You haven't slept on the floor since the first night. No, but a real bed would be nice, maybe even curtains on the windows. Despite everything, Jack found himself smiling. Curtains. You're already domesticating me. Someone has to. Left to yourself, you'd live on coffee and paranoia. Barnes stirred in his chair, opened one eye. You two gonna talk all day or let a wounded man give you some advice? Depends on the advice, Jack said. Take the badge. Take the house. Marry this woman before she comes to her senses. And for God's sake, stop acting like happiness is something that happens to other people. Before Jack could respond, commotion erupted outside. Shouts, running feet, and then someone pounding on the doctor's door. Barnes was on his feet instantly, hand on his gun, but it was Sam Pickens who burst in. Riders coming, looks like Army. Jack tried to sit up again, and this time Anna didn't stop him. Army could mean anything: enforcement of martial law, investigation of the violence, or something else entirely. How many? Jack asked. Full company looks like. Maybe 30 men. They're flying colors, so it's official business. Anna helped Jack to his feet, though he swayed slightly. You shouldn't be up. Can't meet the Army lying down. Barnes, my gun. Barnes handed over Jack's Colt, and together they made their way outside. The townspeople had gathered on the main street, watching nervously as the cavalry company rode in. At their head was a major in a crisp uniform, his bearing suggesting career military rather than volunteer. The major dismounted in front of the doctor's house, his eyes taking in the scene, the damaged buildings, the armed townspeople, and Jack, obviously wounded but standing straight. I'm Major Thomas Brennan, 3rd Cavalry. I'm looking for the man known as Cemetery Jack. You found him? Jack said evenly. Though the name's Callahan. The major studied him for a moment. Mr. Callahan, I'm here on behalf of Colonel Morrison, United States Army, retired. You killed his son this morning. The crowd tensed, hands drifting toward weapons. Anna stepped closer to Jack, her hand finding the Navy Colt at her hip. Cole Morrison was a murderer and a thief, Jack said. He attacked this town, killed innocent people. He died in fair combat. I'm aware of his crimes, Major Brennan said, surprising everyone. The colonel is also aware. He sent me to thank you. The silence that followed could have been carved with a knife. Thank me, Jack repeated. Cole Morrison was the colonel's shame. He'd been using his father's name and reputation to avoid justice for years. The colonel tried to bring him in himself twice, but blood... The major shrugged. Blood makes fools of us all. When word reached Fort Grant that Cemetery Jack had ended his son's rampage, the colonel wanted to ensure there would be no retaliation from the Army. And to offer you this. The major produced a document from his uniform jacket. A full pardon for any and all crimes committed during the range wars, signed by the territorial governor. Anna heard Jack's sharp intake of breath. A pardon meant freedom from the past, from the constant looking over his shoulder, from the weight of being Cemetery Jack. Why? Jack asked. Because the colonel is a pragmatic man. He knows the territory needs men like you wearing badges, not running from them. He also knows his son would have eventually forced someone to kill him. He's grateful it was someone with honor enough to make it clean. Major Brennan handed over the pardon, then looked around at the damaged town. We'll be camping outside town tonight, moving on tomorrow. If any of Morrison's gang shows up, we'll handle them. Consider it the Army's apology for not dealing with this sooner. As the major mounted his horse, he paused. Mr. Callahan. The colonel asked me to tell you something. He said, the past is a grave. Stop digging in it and build something for the living. I don't know what it means, but he said you would. The cavalry company rode through town, making camp on the eastern edge, where they could watch the approaches. Their presence meant safety, at least for tonight. Back in the doctor's house, Jack stared at the pardon like it might disappear. It's real, he said, wonder in his voice. I'm free. You were always free, Anna said. This just makes it official. Barnes cleared his throat. So about that sheriff position, Jack looked at Anna, then at the pardon, then out the window at the town that had bled for him and with him. Tell the town council yes, but I have conditions. Such as, Barnes asked. Anna becomes my deputy, official with a badge and salary. A woman deputy? Barnes sounded skeptical. A woman who can shoot, who kept her head under fire, and who the other women in town might actually talk to. Crime isn't just about men with guns. It's about families' disputes, the kind of troubles that simmer before they explode. Anna could help with those. Anna stared at him. Jack, I don't know the first thing about being a deputy. Neither do I about being a sheriff. We'll learn together. Barnes scratched his chin. The council won't like it. Too unconventional. Then they can find another sheriff. Those are my terms. Barnes sighed. I'll talk to them. Though after today, I think they'd agree to make your horse a deputy, if you asked. As Barnes left to find the council, Anna helped Jack back to the examination table. You didn't have to do that. Make me deputy. Yes, I did. I meant what I said about being equals. Besides, I've seen you shoot. You're better than half the men who've worn badges out here. Jack Callahan, are you always going to surprise me? I hope so. Wouldn't want you getting bored. The rest of the day passed in a blur of visitors. The town council agreed to Jack's terms, though not without grumbling. The women of the town, led by the minister's wife, began planning not just a wedding reception, but a celebration of the town's survival. Someone found a photographer who'd been passing through and convinced him to stay to document the wedding. As evening fell, Anna finally managed to clear the room of well-wishers. Jack was exhausted, his face gray with pain and fatigue. She helped him lie back, adjusting the pillow behind his head. You need to rest, she said firmly. Doctor's orders. Can't rest, too much to do. Need to check the defenses, make sure the watch is set. The army is camped outside town. Barnes has organized a watch. Everything is handled. She sat beside him on the table, taking his hand. Jack, you have to learn to let go sometimes. You can't control everything. I've stayed alive this long by controlling everything I could. And now you have help. You have me, Barnes, the whole town. You're not alone anymore. Jack looked at her. Really looked at her. In the lamplight, with her hair coming loose from its pins and exhaustion written on her face, she was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. How did this happen? He asked softly. 4 days ago, I was nobody going nowhere. Now I'm about to be a sheriff with a deputy who's going to be my wife. Life's funny that way. Sometimes it changes in an instant. Anna leaned down and kissed his forehead. Now sleep. I'll be right here. You need rest too. I'll rest when you're sleeping. Jack wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling him under. For the first time in years, he fell asleep without his hand on a weapon, trusting someone else to keep watch. Anna sat beside him as the evening deepened into night, watching his face relax in sleep. The lines of pain and vigilance smoothed out, and she could see the younger man he must have been before war and violence carved their marks on him. Doc Harrison checked in around midnight. How's our patient? Sleeping. Really sleeping, not just dozing with one eye open. Good, he needs it. That body's been running on willpower and whiskey for too long. The doctor pulled up a chair. Can I give you some advice, young lady? Please. That man's been alone so long he's forgotten how to be any other way. It's going to take patience to teach him to be part of something again. I know. Say, because what I saw today, him making you deputy standing up to the army, that's not the cemetery Jack of legend. That's someone trying to be better. But old habits die hard, and there'll be days when he retreats back into himself. Anna nodded. I've been alone too, Doctor. Maybe not as long, but I understand the weight of it. We'll figure it out. I believe you will. He stood to leave, then paused. That judge from Denver, when he comes through, my wife and I would like to host the wedding. Our house is the biggest in town, and Lord knows we need something to celebrate. That's very kind. It's practical. This town needs symbols of hope of building rather than destroying. You two are that symbol, whether you meant to be or not. After the doctor left, Anna maintained her vigil. Around 3 a.m, Jack stirred his hand, reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. She caught his hand, held it. It's all right. You're safe. His eyes focused on her. You're still here. Where else would I be? Anyone else would have run, after seeing what I really am. What you really are is a good man who's done hard things to survive. That doesn't scare me, Jack. What scares me is the thought of you facing it alone. He pulled her down beside him on the narrow table, wincing at the movement, but not letting go. The pardon doesn't change what I've done. No, but it changes what you can do next. Sheriff Callahan has a nice ring to it. Deputy Callahan sounds better. We'll both be Callahan soon enough. They lay there in the darkness, careful of his wound, finding comfort in proximity. Finally, Jack spoke again. Anna, when the judge comes, I want to do this right. I don't have much to offer. You have yourself, that's enough. You deserve more. A proper ring, a wedding dress. I have $2,000. Remember, I can buy my own dress. As for a ring, she reached into her pocket and pulled out something that caught the moonlight. It was a simple band worn smooth. This was my mother's. She gave it to me before she died, said to save it for someone worth wearing it for. Jack took the ring, turned it in his fingers. Your mother's ring should go to you. Then give it to me when the judge says the words. Anna Porter, you're a remarkable woman. Anna soon-to-be Callahan, and you're a remarkable man even if you can't see it yet. Dawn came slowly, painting the sky in shades of pearl and gold. Anna had dozed off her head on Jack's shoulder when Barnes knocked on the door. Sorry to wake you, but we've got a situation. Jack was instantly alert. Morrison's men... No, different problem. There's a Comanche war party about 10 miles out. Scouts from the Army spotted them. Looks like they're heading for the settlement at Cooper's Creek. Cooper's Creek was a small farming community, mostly families with children. They wouldn't stand a chance against a war party. How many? Jack asked, already trying to sit up. Maybe 20 warriors. The Army's mobilizing, but Major Brennan wants to know if you know the area better. Jack was on his feet, swaying but determined. I know a shortcut through Skeleton Canyon. Could cut 2 hours off the journey. You can't ride, Anna protested. You'll tear the stitches. Can't let those families die either. Then I'm coming with you. Anna. Deputy, remember, this is the job. Barnes looked between them. The major's asking for volunteers from the town. Fighting Comanches isn't Army-only work out here. Get me 10 good men, Jack said. And Anna's right, she comes. We'll need every gun. Within an hour, they had their volunteers. The town's blacksmith, 2 ranch hands, the owner of the livery stable, and 6 others who could shoot straight and had reasons to fight. Anna had changed into her riding clothes, the Navy Colt on her hip, and a rifle across her saddle. Major Brennan met them at the edge of town. Mr. Callahan, you're in no condition. I know the shortcut, Major. Your men don't. We can guide you hit the war party before they reach Cooper's Creek. The major studied him, then nodded. Very well, but your guides not fighters. Understood. Understood. Jack lied. They rode hard through the morning, Jack gritting his teeth against the pain of his wound. Anna stayed close, watching for signs he might fall from the saddle. The shortcut through Skeleton Canyon was treacherous, a narrow path between towering rocks that had claimed more than one careless rider. How do you know about this path? Anna asked as they navigated a particularly narrow section. Tracked a man through here once. He thought he'd lost me in the rocks. Had he? For a while. Then he made camp and lit a fire. Smoke gave him away. They emerged from the canyon with the sun high overhead. In the distance, dust rose from the prairie, the war party moving fast toward Cooper's Creek. But they'd gained the time they needed. Major Brennan quickly organized his forces. We'll hit them from 2 sides. Sergeant, take half the men around their flank. We'll charge from the front. Major, Jack interrupted. That's open ground. You'll lose half your men before you close. Do you have a better idea? Let them come to us. Set an ambush at Devil's Rock just before Cooper's Creek. They'll have to pass through the narrow spot. We can catch them in a crossfire. The major considered, then agreed. They rode hard for Devil's Rock, a formation of boulders that created a natural choke point. The volunteers from Bitter Creek took position on one side, the Army on the other. Remember, Jack told his people, wait for the signal. Let them get fully into the kill zone. Anna crouched beside him, rifle ready. You're bleeding through the bandage. It'll hold. Jack. Later. Focus on what's coming. They didn't have long to wait. The war party appeared moving with the confidence of warriors who didn't expect resistance. They were painted for war, their faces streaked with red and black, their horses decorated with scalps and coop feathers. The lead warrior suddenly pulled up, sensing something wrong, but it was too late. Now, Major Brennan shouted. The crossfire was devastating. The warriors tried to retreat, then charge, but they were trapped. Some dismounted, taking cover behind dead horses, fighting with the courage of men who knew death was coming. Anna's rifle cracked steadily, and Jack saw she was picking her targets carefully, making each shot count. The firefight lasted maybe 10 minutes, but it felt like hours. When the smoke cleared, 15 warriors lay dead. The survivors had vanished into the prairie, their raid broken. "Cooper's Creek is safe," Major Brennan said, surveying the battlefield. "Well done, Mr. Callahan. Your ambush saved lives on both sides." "Not enough lives," Jack said, looking at the dead warriors. "They were somebody's sons, brothers, fathers." "They were coming to kill innocent people," the major reminded him. "I know. Doesn't mean I have to like it." As they rode back toward Bitter Creek, one of the ranch hands spoke up. "Sheriff, that was smart thinking. You saved Cooper's Creek without losing a man." "Not sheriff yet," Jack said, though the title felt strange on his tongue. "You are to us," the blacksmith said, "badge or no badge." They made camp that night halfway back to town. Jack too exhausted to continue. Anna tended his wound, which had indeed torn, but not as badly as she'd feared. As she worked, the army soldiers and townspeople mingled, sharing food and stories. "You did good today," Jack told Anna as she rebandaged his side. "Cool under fire, good shooting. You'll make a fine deputy." "I had a good teacher." Anna about what the major said about those warriors being someone's family. "You're not a cold killer, Jack. The fact that you can see the enemy as human even while fighting them, that's what makes you different from men like Morrison." Major Brennan approached their fire. "Mr. Callahan, Miss Porter, I wanted to thank you again. Also to deliver another message from Colonel Morrison." Jack tensed. "He wants you to know that he'll be at your wedding, not as Cole's father, but as a man who respects what you've done for this territory. He's bringing a gift, a pair of match Colts that belonged to his grandfather, a Texas Ranger." "I can't accept." "You can and you will. The colonel needs to do this to close the book on his son properly. Let him." After the major left, Anna and Jack sat by the fire watching the stars emerge. Tomorrow, they'd be back in Bitter Creek starting their new lives as sheriff and deputy. In less than 2 weeks, they'd be married. "Are you ready for all this?" Anna asked. "Being respectable, having responsibilities to the whole town." "No," Jack said honestly. "But I'm ready to try. With you." "That's all anyone can ask." As the fire died to embers, Anna curled against Jack's uninjured side, and for the second time in days he fell asleep without standing watch. Around them, the combined forces of army and townspeople kept vigil, protecting the man who'd protected them. In 5 days, Jack had gone from drifter to sheriff, from loner to partner, from cemetery. Jack to Jack Callahan, respected citizen. It was enough to make a man's head spin. But as Anna's breathing deepened into sleep, Jack found he didn't care about the speed of change. What mattered was the woman beside him, the town that needed them, and the chance to build something worth defending. The stars wheeled overhead, indifferent to human struggles, but Jack looked up at them with something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Not the desperate hope of survival, but the quiet hope of a future worth living. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Morrison's remaining men might return. Other threats would emerge. The badge would make him a target for every gunslinger looking to make a name. But tonight, with Anna beside him and good people standing watch, Jack Callahan allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, he could be the man this town needed him to be. More importantly, he could be the man Anna believed he already was. The morning they returned to Bitter Creek, the town looked different somehow, as if the violence had washed it clean and left something new in its wake. Jack rode straight-backed despite the pain. Anna beside him, the volunteers and army troops stretched out behind them like a victory parade nobody had planned. Doc Harrison was waiting on his porch, medical bag in hand. "You tore the stitches, didn't you?" "Saved Cooper's Creek one," Jack replied, as if that explained everything. "Of course you did. Get inside before you bleed to death and ruin the town's celebration." As the doctor worked to repair the damage, Anna stood by the window, watching the townspeople gather in the street. "They're all out there, Jack, waiting." "For what?" "For their sheriff to tell them everything's going to be all right." Jack grimaced as the doctor pulled a stitch tight. I'm no speech maker. You don't have to make a speech. Just be there. Show them you're not going anywhere. When Doc Harrison finished, Jack walked onto the porch, Anna at his side. The crowd fell silent. Sam Pickens stepped forward with something in his hands, a sheriff's star polished to a shine. The town council met while you were gone, Sam said. Unanimous vote. Jack Callahan, will you accept the position of Sheriff of Bitter Creek? Jack looked at the badge, then at the faces watching him. These people had lost friends rebuilt after raids buried their dead and kept going. They deserved better than Cemetery Jack, but maybe that's not who he was anymore. I accept, he said, and let Sam pin the star to his shirt. But I meant what I said about conditions. Anna Porter is my deputy effective immediately. There was murmuring in the crowd, but Sam pulled out a second star, smaller, but no less official. We figured as much. Miss Porter. Anna's hand trembled slightly as she took the badge. I'll do my best to serve this town well. That's all we ask, Sam said. Then louder to the crowd, 3 cheers for Sheriff Callahan and Deputy Porter. The cheering was loud enough to spook horses 3 streets over. That afternoon, Jack and Anna walked through what would be their new home, the sheriff's house that came with the position. It was modest but solid, with 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a front room that could serve as an office. The back door opened onto a small stable and corral. It needs work, Jack said, noting the peeling paint and sagging porch steps. It needs life, Anna corrected. It's been empty since Sheriff Garrison died. But look. She walked to the window. You can see the whole main street from here, and there's room for a garden in back. You want a garden? I want a home, Jack. A real home. Gardens are part of that. He walked up behind her, careful of his wounded side, and put his arms around her. You could have any home you want with that reward money. You sure you want this one? She leaned back against him. This one comes with you. That's either the smartest or stupidest decision you've ever made. Time will tell. She turned in his arms, looking up at him. Jack, there's something we need to discuss. The wedding is in 10 days. This house has 2 bedrooms. I noticed. And what are your thoughts on that? Jack's face colored slightly. I figured that is until we're properly married. You figured you'd be a gentleman and take the smaller room. Something like that. Anna smiled. Jack Callahan, you've seen me shoot men, ride into battle, and stand against impossible odds. Do you really think I care about propriety at this point? I care about doing right by you. Then let me decide what's right for me. She stretched up and kissed him soft and sweet. But if it makes you feel better, we'll keep separate rooms until the wedding. After that, you're stuck with me. I'm counting on it. They were interrupted by a knock at the door. Barnes stood there with a young man Jack didn't recognize, barely more than a boy, with nervous eyes and clothes that marked him as a drifter. Sheriff, this is Tim Garrett. He's got information you need to hear. The boy shifted nervously. I was riding with Morrison's gang. Not by choice, they grabbed me off my family's farm, said they'd kill my ma if I didn't come. I was holding the horses during the fight at the mission. Jack's hand instinctively moved toward his gun, but Anna touched his arm. Let him talk. After you killed Morrison, the others scattered. But Elias Ward, he was Morrison's second. He's gathering them back up. Says he's going to burn Bitter Creek to the ground, starting with you and your woman. How many men does Ward have? Maybe 8, could be 10 by now. He's promising big money to anyone who'll ride with him. Says there's a fortune in the bank here. Jack and Anna exchanged glances. The bank held maybe $500 on a good day. Where's Ward now? Jack asked. Holed up at the old Kruger Ranch about 15 miles west. But Sheriff, that ain't all. He sent a rider to Fort Worth to Black Tom Sutton. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Black Tom Sutton was a killer who made Morrison look like a choir boy. If he came to Bitter Creek, the town would run red. You did right coming here, Jack told the boy. Barnes, get him something to eat and find him a place to stay. Keep him safe. Ward finds out he talked he's dead. After they left, Anna asked, Black Tom Sutton, how bad? Killed his first man at 14, lost count after 30, fast as lightning and mean as a rattler. I faced him once 5 years ago. And we both walked away, decided killing each other wasn't worth what we were being paid. But if Ward's offering enough money, how long before he gets here? 3 days, maybe 4 if we're lucky. Anna straightened her shoulders. Then we'd better get ready. The next days passed in a blur of preparation. Jack organized the town's defenses, turning Bitter Creek into a fortress without walls. Every able-bodied man was armed and assigned a position. Anna worked with the women organizing medical supplies and safe places for children. Major Brennan had left a squad of soldiers behind, ostensibly to rest their horses, but really to help if needed. Jack was grateful for the extra guns, even if pride made it hard to admit. On the third day, as Jack was teaching Anna and several townsmen how to reload under fire, a lone rider appeared on the horizon. Jack recognized the silhouette immediately. Tall, lean, wearing all black despite the heat. Black Tom Sutton rode down Main Street like he owned it, stopping in front of the sheriff's office where Jack waited. "Hello, Jack," Sutton said, his voice smooth as oil. "Heard you've gone respectable, sheriff and all." "Tom, heard you were coming. Ward's offering good money, 500 to whoever kills you, another 300 for the woman. That all I'm worth these days." Sutton smiled a cold expression that never reached his eyes. "Times are hard. Men are taking lesser jobs. You came to see if it was true. Cemetery Jack wearing a badge protecting civilians getting married." Sutton shook his head. "Never thought I'd see the day. Things change. People don't." Sutton's eyes shifted to Anna, who'd emerged from the office, her hand resting on her pistol. "This the woman who's got you acting like a white knight." "Careful, Tom," Jack warned. Sutton studied Anna with the calculating gaze of a predator. "She's pretty, I can see the appeal, but is she worth dying for?" "Yes," Jack said without hesitation. "And you miss. Is he worth killing for, huh?" "Already have," Anna replied evenly. "Would again?" Sutton laughed, a genuine sound of amusement. "Well, I'll be damned. Cemetery." Jack found himself a wildcat. He looked back at Jack. "Ward's planning to hit you tomorrow night. Full moon, good light for shooting. He figures you'll be focused on defending the town, won't see him coming for your house." "Why tell me?" "Because Ward's an idiot who got Morrison killed with his poor planning, and because—" Sutton paused, choosing his words carefully, "because I remember that day 5 years ago. You could have killed me, had the drop had the right, but you said something I never forgot." "What was that?" "You said there's no honor in killing for money, only necessity. That if a man's going to kill, it should mean something." Sutton adjusted his hat. "Defending your woman, your town, that means something. Ward trying to burn out families for revenge and coins, that's just murder. You turning down the job. Already turned it down. Told Ward I don't work for fools. He didn't take it well." Sutton wheeled his horse around. "Watch yourself tomorrow night, Jack. Ward's desperate, and desperate men do stupid, dangerous things." As Sutton rode away, Anna asked, "Can we trust him?" "Tom Sutton's a killer, but he's got his own code. If he says Ward's coming tomorrow night, then Ward's coming tomorrow night." That evening, Jack called a town meeting. The church was packed, everyone from the banker to the saloon girls crowding in to hear their new sheriff speak. "Elias Ward and what's left of Morrison's gang are coming," Jack said without preamble. "Tomorrow night, if our information's good. They're going to try to burn us out, kill anyone who resists." Fear rippled through the crowd, but also determination. These people had survived too much to run now. "What do you want us to do, Sheriff?" asked the blacksmith. "Fight if you're able. Hide if you're not. Protect each other no matter what. Deputy Porter has medical supplies ready. Barnes has extra ammunition. We've faced worse odds and won." "But, Sheriff," the banker protested, "we're merchants and farmers, not gunfighters." "No," Jack agreed. "You're better. You're people defending your homes, your families. That makes you more dangerous than any hired gun." The minister stood up. "Sheriff Callahan, I'd like to say a prayer, if you don't mind." Jack nodded, and the minister prayed for protection, for courage, for the strength to do what must be done. When he finished, he added, "And Lord, we thank you for sending us this man and woman in our hour of need. Amen." The amen that echoed back was loud and firm. That night, Jack and Anna sat on the porch of their soon-to-be home watching the sun set. Tomorrow would bring violence, but tonight there was peace. "Are you afraid?" Anna asked. Terrified, Jack admitted. Not of dying, of failing, of Ward getting past me to you or the town. You won't fail. How can you be so sure? Because you're not the same man who rode into town 5 days ago. That man had nothing to lose. You have everything to lose now, and that makes you dangerous in ways Ward can't imagine. When did you get so wise? Sometime between shooting Tom Hutchins and becoming a deputy. She leaned against him. Jack, whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know something. These past days with you have been the first time since my family died that I felt truly alive. Not just surviving, but living. Anna, let me finish. If something happens to me, nothing's going to happen to you. If it does, she continued firmly, I want you to keep living, not just surviving, but really living. This town needs you. You need this town. Don't let my death turn you back into Cemetery Jack. You're not going to die. Promise me. Jack turned to face her fully. I'll promise you this, we're both going to survive tomorrow. We're going to get married next week. We're going to build a life here that makes all the blood and violence worth it. That's my promise. Anna kissed him then, deep and full of promise. When they pulled apart, she said, I'm holding you to that Sheriff Callahan. The next day passed with agonizing slowness. Jack positioned his defenders carefully, men on rooftops, others behind barricades, the army soldiers in reserve. Anna organized the women and children, making sure everyone knew where to go when the shooting started. As the sun began to set, painting the sky blood red, Jack stood in the middle of Main Street Badge, glinting in the dying light. Anna stood beside him, rifle in hand, deputy's star-proud on her chest. You should be with the medical supplies, Jack said. I should be where I'm needed most. That's beside you. Before he could argue, Barnes called out from his position, Riders coming! Looks like the whole gang! Ward's men came in fast and hard, guns blazing before they even reached the town proper. Jack and Anna dove for cover as bullets whined overhead. So much for sneaking in, Anna muttered, firing back. The battle erupted across Bitter Creek. Windows shattered, wood splintered, and the air filled with gun smoke and screams. Ward had brought more men than expected, maybe 15 riders, and they were better organized than Morrison's gang had been. Jack moved through the chaos with deadly purpose, the sheriff's star making him a target, but also a rallying point for the defenders. Anna stayed close, covering his back, proving herself over and over as bullets flew. Then she saw 3 riders breaking off from the main fight, heading for the residential area where the women and children were hidden. Jack, they're going for the families. Without hesitation, Jack and Anna ran to intercept them. They caught the riders in the open between buildings. Jack's rifle spoke first, taking one from his saddle. Anna's shot caught another in the shoulder, spinning him around. The third rider, though, was Elias Ward himself. He wheeled his horse pistol aimed at Anna. Jack saw it happening as if in slow motion, Ward's finger tightening on the trigger, Anna trying to bring her rifle around, knowing she'd be too late. Jack didn't think. He just moved, throwing himself between Anna and Ward's gun. The bullet caught him high in the chest, punching through his body with shocking force. He heard Anna scream as he fell. Ward was lining up another shot when Anna's rifle cracked. Ward jerked, looked down at the spreading red stain on his shirt with surprise, then toppled from his horse. Jack? Anna dropped beside him, pressing her hands against the wound. No, no, no. You promised. You promised we'd both survive. Jack's breath came in short gasps, blood bubbling on his lips. Had to protect Barnes, Anna screamed. Get the doctor. Now! The battle was winding down, Ward's men fleeing or surrendering as word spread that their leader was dead. But Anna didn't care about any of that. All that mattered was the man bleeding out in her arms. Doc Harrison arrived at a run, took one look at the wound, and his face went grim. We need to get him inside. Now! They carried Jack to the doctor's office. Anna never letting go of his hand. As Doc Harrison worked frantically to stop the bleeding, Anna whispered in Jack's ear, You stay with me, Jack Callahan. You hear me? You don't get to die a hero. You have to live and be a husband. That's harder and more important than any heroic death. Jack's eyes fluttered open, focusing on her face. Anna, I'm here. I'm right here. Sorry, about the wedding. The wedding's still happening. You're going to be there if I have to prop you up myself. Doc Harrison worked through the night extracting the bullet-stitching damaged vessels, fighting to keep Jack stable. Anna never left his side, talking to him constantly, refusing to let him slip away. As dawn broke, the doctor stepped back, exhausted. He's alive. Barely. The next 24 hours will tell. Anna gripped Jack's hand tighter. He'll make it. He has to. The town rallied around their wounded sheriff. People took turns sitting with Anna, bringing food she didn't eat, offering comfort she couldn't accept. The minister came and prayed. The saloon girls brought flowers. Even the banker, who'd been skeptical of Jack from the start, stood guard outside the doctor's office to ensure no one disturbed them. On the second day, Jack's fever broke. His eyes opened clear and focused, finding Anna immediately. "You look terrible," he whispered. Anna laughed through her tears. "You should see yourself." The town? Safe. Ward's dead. The rest scattered or captured. She squeezed his hand. "You did it. You saved everyone." "We did it," he corrected. "That was a hell of a shot you made." "I was aiming for his arm." Despite the pain, Jack laughed, then winced. "Don't make me laugh. Everything hurts." "Good. Maybe next time you'll think before jumping in front of a bullet. Not if it's aimed at you." Doc Harrison entered, pleased to see his patient awake. "You're a lucky man, Sheriff. Half an inch to the left and we'd be having this conversation in the afterlife. Seems to be a recurring theme with me." "We'll try to break the pattern. I'm running out of thread for stitches." The doctor examined the wound, nodding with satisfaction. "You'll live. You'll be weak for weeks, maybe months, but you'll live." "The wedding's in 6 days," Anna said. "Will he be able to stand with help, to dance not a chance, to say, 'I do,' that he can manage?" Over the next days, the town transformed. The violence had ended Ward's death, breaking the last real threat to Bitter Creek's peace. People began rebuilding, repairing, looking forward instead of over their shoulders. Colonel Morrison arrived 3 days before the wedding, a dignified older man who looked nothing like his late son, except for the eyes. He stood awkwardly in the doorway of the doctor's office, hat in hand. "Mr. Callahan, Miss Porter, I wanted to thank you in person." "For killing your son," Jack asked, his voice still weak but direct. "For ending his rampage before he destroyed everything I spent my life building. Cole was broken. Had been since he came back from the war. I tried to help him, but some breaks can't be mended." The colonel set a wooden box on the bedside table. "These were my grandfather's. He was a ranger when that meant something. I'd be honored if you'd accept them." Jack opened the box, revealing 2 matching Colt revolvers, beautifully engraved, perfectly balanced. "Colonel, these are too much, but they're not enough. But they're what I have to give. Use them to protect this town, Sheriff. Make them mean something good again." After the colonel left, Anna picked up one of the revolvers, testing its weight. "They're beautiful." "They're tools," Jack said. "But tools we'll need. This won't be the last challenge Bitter Creek faces." "No," Anna agreed, "but we'll face them together." The day before the wedding, Jack insisted on getting up despite Doc Harrison's protests. With Anna's help, he made it to the sheriff's office where Barnes had been handling things. "Sheriff, you shouldn't be up. Had to check on my town," Jack said, lowering himself carefully into the desk chair. "Any problems?" "Nothing major. Few drunks, one dispute over a card game. Though there is this—" Barnes handed over a telegram. Jack read it, his expression darkening. "What is it?" Anna asked. "The governor's sending a federal marshal. Wants a report on the excessive violence in Bitter Creek." "Excessive? We were defending ourselves." "Politicians don't see it that way. They see a body count and worry about their reputations." Jack set the telegram aside. "Let him come. We've got nothing to hide." That evening, the minister came to discuss the ceremony. "Given your condition, Sheriff, we could keep it simple. Just the vows, nothing elaborate." "No," Jack said firmly. "Anna deserves a proper wedding. I'll stand for it if it kills me." "It might," Doc Harrison interjected. "Then at least I'll die married." Anna kissed his forehead. "You're not dying. Remember, we have a deal." The wedding day dawned clear and bright, the kind of perfect prairie morning that made all the hardships seem worthwhile. The whole town turned out, filling the church and spilling onto the street. Anna wore a dress she'd bought with her reward money, simple but elegant white, with small blue flowers embroidered on the hem. Jack stood at the altar barns on one side to steady him if needed, wearing his best shirt, and the sheriff's star polished to a shine. When Anna appeared at the church door, his breath caught. She was radiant, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with the dress, and everything to do with the joy on her face. The minister, Judge Crawford from Denver, smiled at the gathered crowd. Dearly beloved, we gather today to witness something remarkable, two souls who found each other in violence and chose to build something from love. As Anna reached the altar, she took Jack's hands, feeling them tremble slightly from weakness or emotion she wasn't sure. Jack Callahan, the judge continued, do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold in sickness and in health, in peace and in conflict, for as long as you both shall live? I do. Jack said, his voice strong despite everything. Anna Porter, do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband, to stand beside him, to support him, to face whatever comes for as long as you both shall live? I do. Anna said, tears streaming down her face. The rings. Jack took his mother's ring from Barnes, his hand steady now as he slipped it onto Anna's finger. With this ring I thee wed, and I promise you this every day I have left, I'll try to be the man you see when you look at me. Anna took a simple gold band she'd bought for Jack, sliding it onto his finger. With this ring I thee wed, and I promise you this, I'll stand beside you through everything, reminding you every day that you're worthy of love, of peace, of happiness. Then by the power vested in me by the territory of Texas, I pronounce you husband and wife. Sheriff, you may kiss your bride. The kiss was gentle, mindful of Jack's injuries, but full of promise. The church erupted in cheers, and for a moment Bitter Creek forgot all its sorrows and celebrated love triumphing over violence. The reception was held in the church hall, tables groaning with food the townswomen had prepared. Jack managed to stay upright for an hour, greeting well-wishers, accepting congratulations, before Anna noticed him starting to fade. Time to go home, she whispered. The party will continue without us. You've done enough, Jack. Let me take care of you now. They slipped out quietly, walking slowly to the sheriff's house, their house now. Anna had spent the previous day making it ready, hanging curtains, putting fresh sheets on the bed, making it a home. As she helped Jack into bed, he caught her hand. Anna, I'm sorry this isn't the wedding night you deserve. She silenced him with a kiss. Jack Callahan, I have exactly the wedding night I want. You alive in our home, wearing a ring that says you're mine. Everything else can wait until you're healed. That could be weeks. Then we have weeks to wait. We're not going anywhere. As night fell over Bitter Creek, Anna lay beside her husband, carefully mindful of his wounds, and thought about the strange path that had brought them here. A week ago, she'd been alone and desperate. Now she was married to the sheriff, wearing a deputy's star, part of a community that had embraced them both. Anna? Jack's voice was drowsy, the medicine Doc Harrison had given him taking effect. Yes. Thank you. For what? For asking to sleep beside me that first night, for not running when you saw what I was, for becoming what you are. And what am I? My salvation, he said simply, then drifted into sleep. Anna watched him sleep, this complicated, dangerous, gentle man who'd become her world in such a short time. Outside, she could hear the town celebrating music drifting from the church hall, laughter in the streets. Bitter Creek had survived. They had survived. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The federal marshal would come with his questions. Other threats would emerge. The badge on Jack's chest would continue to make him a target. But tonight, none of that mattered. What mattered was that two broken people had found each other in the most unlikely circumstances and chosen to build something together. What mattered was that love had grown in ground watered with blood. What mattered was that they were home. As Anna drifted towards sleep, her hand resting over Jack's heart, feeling its steady beat, she whispered, "Can I sleep beside you, cowboy?" And even in sleep, Jack pulled her closer. His answer clear without words, always forever, for as long as they both drew breath. The federal marshal arrived 3 weeks after the wedding, on a morning when Jack was finally able to walk to the sheriff's office without Anna's support, though she still hovered nearby, ready to catch him if he faltered. Marshal Theodore Brennan. No relation to the major, was a thin man with sharp eyes and a manner that suggested he'd already made up his mind about what he'd find in Bitter Creek. "Sheriff Callahan," he said, not offering his hand, "I'm here to investigate reports of excessive violence resulting in 23 deaths over the span of 1 week. 24? Jack corrected, easing himself into his desk chair. "You forgot Sheriff Garrison." The marshal's eyes narrowed. "You seem cavalier about such bloodshed." "I'm precise about it," Jack replied. "Every one of those deaths has a name, a reason, and a witness. Deputy Callahan has the complete records." Anna stepped forward with a ledger she'd spent days preparing. Every incident documented Marshal, including sworn statements from witnesses. Marshal Brennan took the ledger, flipping through it with increasing surprise. The documentation was thorough, professional, and damning to the dead rather than the living. "You did this?" he asked Anna. "Part of my duties as deputy." A female deputy. His tone suggested what he thought of that. "A deputy who can shoot straight and keep accurate records," Jack said, his voice carrying a warning. "Both skills equally valuable in keeping the peace." The marshal spent 3 days in Bitter Creek interviewing townspeople, examining the battle sites, reviewing Anna's meticulous records. What he found clearly wasn't what he'd expected: a town united behind their sheriff and deputy, grateful for their protection, thriving in the newfound peace. On his last evening, Marshal Brennan came to the sheriff's house where Jack and Anna were having dinner. "May I come in?" "Of course," Anna said, setting another place at the table. "Have you eaten?" The marshal seemed surprised by the hospitality. "No, thank you." As they ate Anna's stew, she was still learning to cook, but improving. The marshal finally spoke what was really on his mind. "Cemetery Jack, that's what they called you." "Some still do," Jack acknowledged. "The governor was concerned that a man with your history wearing a badge might attract more violence than he prevents." "Might," Jack agreed. "Or might make folks think twice before bringing trouble here." "And if more violence comes, then we'll face it," Anna said. "Together. That's what the law does, isn't it? Stands between the peaceful and those who'd harm them." The marshal studied them both. "You know what I expected to find here: a town ruled by fear, a gunslinger playing sheriff bodies in the street. Instead, I find this." He gestured vaguely. "Order, peace, hope." "Disappointed?" Jack asked. "Confused," the marshal admitted. "The man in the reports I've read about Cemetery Jack, he wouldn't have taken a bullet for anyone." "That man's dead," Jack said simply. "Died the night a desperate woman asked to sleep beside me for safety, and I realized I wanted to be someone worth trusting." The marshal left the next morning with a report that would satisfy the governor and ensure no further interference. As his stage pulled away, Anna leaned against Jack on the sheriff's office porch. "Think he'll be the last official to come checking on us?" "Doubt it, but we'll handle whoever comes." Jack pulled her closer. "How are you feeling?" Anna had been sick the past few mornings, though she'd tried to hide it. "I'm fine." "Anna," she sighed. I think I'm pregnant." Jack went very still. "How long have you known?" "I've suspected for a week. Doc Harrison confirmed it yesterday." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you've been recovering, dealing with the marshal, trying to be sheriff. I didn't want to add another worry." Jack turned her to face him. "Anna Callahan, you and any child we have will never be a worry. You're the reason I get up every morning. Even when I'm getting up to be sick." "Especially then." He kissed her forehead. "A baby. We're having a baby." "Are you happy?" "Happy doesn't begin to cover it. Terrified, amazed, grateful." He paused. "What if I'm a terrible father? What if I'm too broken?" "Stop." Anna placed her fingers over his lips. "You're going to be a wonderful father. You protect everyone in this town. How much more will you protect your own child?" Before Jack could respond, Barnes came running down the street. "Sheriff Ryder's coming in fast from the south." Jack was on his feet instantly, the potential father replaced by the lawman. How many? 15, maybe 20. Flying Apache colors. The blood drained from Anna's face. Apache raids were rare this far north, but when they came, they were devastating. "Ring the church bell," Jack ordered. "Get everyone to safety. Anna." "I'm coming with you." "Anna, you're pregnant." "I'm also deputy. The baby's safe inside me for now. The town might not be if we don't stop this." They ran for the weapons stored in the sheriff's office. Jack strapped on the matched Colts Colonel Morrison had given him while Anna grabbed her rifle. Barnes was already organizing the town's defenders, but everyone knew 15 or 20 Apache warriors were worth 3 times that number in regular fighters. "Wait," Jack said, looking south through his field glasses. "Something's wrong." The Apache weren't attacking. They were riding in formation, yes, but not a war formation. And at their head rode someone Jack recognized, Samuel Broken Arrow, a warrior he'd encountered years ago during his bounty hunting days. "Hold your fire," Jack shouted. "Nobody shoots unless I give the word." He walked out into the street, hands visible but near his guns. Anna stayed slightly behind, rifle ready but not aimed. The Apache party stopped just outside of town, and Broken Arrow dismounted, approaching alone. "Jack Callahan," he said in accented but clear English. "It has been many seasons." "Samuel, what brings you here?" "A debt and a warning." Jack relaxed slightly. Samuel Broken Arrow was many things, warrior leader, dangerous, but he was also a man of his word. "Come to my office. We can talk there." The sight of the sheriff walking peacefully beside an Apache warrior caused a stir, but Jack's steady manner kept anyone from doing anything stupid. In the office, Samuel accepted coffee. He'd developed a taste for it during his time at the reservation school, before escaping back to his people. "You saved my son," Samuel said without preamble. 3 winters ago. He was caught in a blizzard dying. You could have ridden past, but you brought him to shelter, stayed with him until the storm passed. He was just a boy. Anyone would have... No, most would have left an Apache child to die. You didn't even know he was my son until later. Samuel set down his coffee. "Now I repay that debt. There is a man coming. A very bad man." "Who?" "James Fowler." Anna gasped. Even she had heard of James Fowler, Indian killer, scalp hunter, a man who sold Apache scalps to the Mexican government and anyone else who'd pay. "He's coming here," Jack asked. "He follows our trail. We did not raid, we were hunting buffalo peacefully, but Fowler doesn't care. He wants our scalps to sell." Samuel's face was grim. "He has 30 men, well armed. They will attack our camp tomorrow dawn." "Where's your camp?" 10 miles northwest by Sweetwater Springs, mostly women and children. The warriors you see are all we have." Jack stood pacing to the window. "If Fowler attacks your camp, he'll slaughter everyone." "Yes, but if he finds the camp empty, he'll track you here." "Also yes." "You're asking me to choose between your people and mine." Samuel shook his head. "I'm telling you Fowler comes. What you do with that knowledge is your choice. The debt is paid with the warning." Jack looked at Anna, saw her nod slightly. They both knew what had to be done. "Bring your people here," Jack said. "Tonight. Quietly. We'll shelter them in the old mission." Samuel's eyes widened. "You would do this, your people will not approve." "My people elected me to protect them. Fowler's a threat to everyone. Apache white Mexican doesn't matter. He kills for profit." Jack turned to Anna. "Can you organize food and medical supplies?" "Already thinking about it," she said. "Your woman is with child?" Samuel observed. "I can smell the change in her." Anna blushed. "How? My people know these things." He looked at Jack. "You risk much." "I risk more by doing nothing. Fowler won't stop with your camp. Men like him never have enough blood." That night, under cover of darkness, Samuel's band made their way to the old mission. 43 souls in total, 15 warriors, the rest women, children, and elderly. Jack and Anna were there to meet them along with Barnes and, surprisingly, Doc Harrison. "Don't look so shocked," the doctor said. "I took an oath to do no harm. Letting Fowler massacre these people would violate that oath." Not everyone in town agreed. By morning, word had spread and a group of citizens confronted Jack at his office. "You're harboring hostile. the banker accused. "They'll massacre us in our sleep." "They're refugees," Jack corrected, "and they're under my protection." "You don't have the right." "I have the responsibility." Jack stood his presence filling the room, despite his still healing injuries. "James Fowler is coming either way. Would you rather face him with 15 more fighters on our side, or have him slaughter those people and then come for us anyway, drunk on blood and victory?" Before anyone could answer, a scout's whistle pierced the air. Fowler had arrived. The scalp hunter rode at the head of his mob, 30 of the most vicious killers the frontier had produced. Fowler himself was a giant of a man with a beard full of gray and eyes empty of anything resembling humanity. Scalps hung from his saddle, dried and rattling in the wind. "Sheriff Callahan," Fowler called out. "I'm tracking Apache raiders. They came this way." Jack walked out to meet him, Anna beside him, despite his attempt to make her stay inside. "No raiders here, Fowler. Just peaceful folk going about their business." "Don't lie to me, boy. I know Cemetery Jack's reputation, but that don't give you the right to harbor hostiles." "I'm harboring refugees, women and children mostly." Fowler spat tobacco juice. "Apache women birth Apache warriors. Apache children grow into Apache fighters. Best to kill them all young." "Not in my town." "Your town?" Fowler laughed ugly and harsh. "Boy, I've got 30 guns. You've got what yourself and that pretty little thing beside you." "He's got more than that," Samuel Broken Arrow said, stepping out from the mission, his warriors spreading out beside him. "He's got us." "And us," Barnes added, leading a group of townsmen into position. "And the United States Army," a familiar voice called out. Major Brennan and his cavalry company rode in from the east, having received Jack's hastily sent telegram the night before. "Mr. Fowler, you're under arrest for murder, theft, and violation of the Treaty of 1868. Fowler's hand moved toward his gun. "You don't have jurisdiction." "I do," Marshal Theodore Brennan said, stepping out from the hotel where he'd delayed his departure after hearing about the situation. "Federal warrant for your arrest, Fowler. 3 years old, but still valid." For a moment, the street balanced on the edge of a massacre. 30 killers against Apache warriors, townspeople, and cavalry. The numbers were almost even, but the bloodshed would be horrible. "You'd all die for a bunch of savages?" Fowler asked, genuinely puzzled. "We'd all stand for the law," Jack said, "for protecting those who can't protect themselves, for doing what's right instead of what's profitable." Pretty words from a killer. "I am a killer," Jack agreed, "but I choose my targets. You're a murderer. There's a difference." Fowler made his choice, then going for his gun with the speed that had made him feared across 3 territories. But Jack had been expecting it, watching for the telltale tensing of shoulders. The matched Colts cleared leather and spoke as one. Fowler looked down at the 2 holes in his chest, surprise replacing arrogance on his face, then fell forward into the dust. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then Fowler's men made the smart choice, dropping their weapons and raising their hands. They were killers, but they weren't stupid. Between the Apache, the army, and the town, they were outnumbered and outgunned. As the army took the prisoners into custody, Samuel approached Jack. "You killed for my people." "I killed for all people. Fowler was a rabid dog. It was time someone put him down." "The debt between us." "There is no debt. There never was. You saved your son, I saved mine. We both did what fathers do." Samuel looked confused. "Your son..." Jack put his hand on Anna's still flat stomach. Future tense. "But the principle stands." Understanding dawned in Samuel's eyes. "You will be a good father, Jack Callahan. Your child will know both strength and compassion. From both parents," Anna added firmly. Samuel's band left that evening, but not before his wife, a dignified woman named Maria, pressed a beaded necklace into Anna's hands. "For the child," she said in broken English, "for protection." As they watched the Apache disappear into the prairie darkness, Anna leaned against Jack. "You know there'll be consequences. The governor, the newspapers, they'll say you chose Indians over whites. I chose right over wrong. If they can't see the difference, that's their blindness, not mine." Marshal Brennan approached before his departure. "Sheriff, I'll be filing a report about this incident." "I expected as much." It will say that Sheriff Jack Callahan prevented a massacre, upheld the law, and eliminated a dangerous criminal who'd been evading justice for years. He offered his hand. I was wrong about you. The governor sent me to investigate a potential problem. Instead, I found a solution. As the marshal stage and the army column departed, Bitter Creek settled into an exhausted peace. The town was divided. Some saw Jack as a hero, others as a traitor to his race. But all agreed on one thing: their sheriff would protect anyone who needed it, regardless of the personal cost. That night, as Jack and Anna prepared for bed in their home, she asked, "Do you regret it?" Taking the badge, it's brought nothing but violence. It's brought purpose, Jack corrected, pulling her close. And you, and now our child. I'd face 100 Fowlers for that. You might have to. Your reputation is spreading. Every gunslinger in the territory will want to test themselves against the sheriff who protects everyone. Then they'll find a man with everything to live for. That makes me more dangerous than when I had nothing to lose. Anna traced the scars on his chest, old and new. I never thanked you. For what? For becoming the man I knew you could be. For letting me sleep beside you that first night. Anna, you didn't sleep beside me. You saved me. Every night since you've saved me. A month passed in relative peace. Anna's pregnancy progressed, her morning sickness giving way to a ravenous appetite that amused Jack endlessly. The town slowly healed from its divisions, united by the shared experience of survival. Then came the letter that changed everything. Barnes brought it to Jack one morning, his face grim. It's from Austin, the governor himself. Jack read it, his expression darkening with each line. He's appointing a new territorial judge, Judge Harold Craven. Craven? Anna paled. The hanging judge. Harold Craven was notorious a man who saw the law as a weapon to be wielded against anyone he deemed undesirable. His appointment meant a return to the kind of frontier justice that was more about power than righteousness. He'll be here in 2 weeks, Jack said, and his first order of business will be investigating the Apache incident. He could strip your badge. He could do worse. He could declare martial law, bring in his own men. Jack stood pacing. Everything we've built here could be destroyed. Then we fight. This isn't the kind of fight we can win with guns, Anna. Then we fight smarter. Over the next days, Jack and Anna prepared for a different kind of battle. They gathered sworn statements from everyone involved in the Fowler incident. Anna documented every crime Fowler had committed, reaching out to other towns for records. They built a case that would stand up in any honest court. But Harold Craven wasn't interested in honest courts. He arrived with an entourage of 20 men gunfighters wearing deputy badges, the kind of legal authority that was worse than outlaws, because it had the law's protection. Craven himself was a thin, aesthetic-looking man with eyes like a snake and a voice that dripped false sympathy. Sheriff Callahan, he said, making himself comfortable in Jack's office without invitation. I've heard so much about you. Cemetery Jack turned lawman. Quite the redemption story. Judge Craven. I've been reviewing your recent actions, harboring hostiles, killing a white man in defense of savages. Some might call that treason. Some might call it justice. Craven smiled cold and sharp. Justice is what I say it is, Sheriff. And I say you've overstepped your authority. Then remove me, Jack said simply. But do it legally. Call a town meeting, let the people decide. The people. Craven laughed. The people don't know what's best for them. That's why they need men like us to decide. Men like you, maybe. Not like me. Anna entered then, carrying a thick folder. Judge Craven, I have here documented evidence of James Fowler's crimes. 37 murders, 15 of them women and children, all verified by witnesses. Craven didn't even look at the folder. Deputy Callahan, or should I say Mrs. Callahan, a woman wearing a badge, another irregularity I'll have to address. Address it however you like, Anna said calmly, but the evidence stands. Evidence gathered by a woman and a killer, hardly reliable. That night Jack and Anna held a war council in their home. Barnes was there along with Doc Harrison, the minister, and surprisingly the banker. I don't always agree with your methods, Sheriff, the banker said, but Craven's worse than any outlaw. He'll bleed this town dry with fines and fees, all legal. So what do we do? Barnes asked. We give him enough rope to hang himself, Jack said. Men like Craven always overreach. We just have to be ready when he does. They didn't have long to wait. 3 days after his arrival, Craven announced new ordinances, attacks on all businesses, a fee for wearing firearms, and most tellingly, a bounty on Apache scalps to prevent future incidents. The town erupted. Even those who'd been uncertain about Jack's protection of Samuel's band were outraged by the scalp bounty. It was a return to the darkest days of the frontier, and they wanted no part of it. The confrontation came on a Sunday morning. Craven had just posted notice that the sheriff's position was under review when the sound of horses filled the street. Samuel Broken Arrow and 50 Apache warriors rode in armed and painted for war. "Judge Craven," Samuel called out, "you place bounty on Apache scalps. We come to discuss." Craven emerged from the hotel, his hired gun spreading out beside him. "Savages aren't welcome in this town. We were welcome when the sheriff protected us. We stand with him now." "You're threatening a federal judge." "We're defending a friend," Samuel corrected. Then more horses arrived Major Brennan and 2 full cavalry companies. "Judge Craven, I'm here on orders from General Sheridan himself. Your appointment has been revoked." "What, on whose authority?" "On the authority of multiple witnesses who've testified to your corruption in previous posts. Sheriff Callahan and Deputy Callahan's detailed documentation of your actions here were the final evidence needed." Anna stepped forward. "Every illegal ordinance, every threat, every bribe solicitation, all documented, all witnessed, all sent by telegraph to Austin, Fort Worth, and Washington." Craven's face went purple. "You can't. This is illegal." "No," Jack said, stepping forward. "This is justice. The real kind, not your perverted version." Craven went for his gun, a desperate, stupid move. Jack's Colt was out, and the gun was flying from Craven's hand before the judge could even clear leather. Craven clutched his bleeding hand, screaming. "You're under arrest," Jack said calmly, "for attempted murder of a peace officer. Barnes, lock him up." As Craven was dragged away, still screaming about his rights and connections, Major Brennan approached Jack. "The governor sends his apologies, and his confirmation of your appointment as sheriff permanent and irrevocable. Just wanted to do the job. You've done more than that. You've shown that the law can protect everyone, not just the powerful." He looked at Samuel and his warriors. "Mr. Broken Arrow, the Treaty of 1868 is being reviewed. Your people's rights will be respected." Samuel nodded gravely. "We will hold you to that, Major." As the Apache and army departed, the town gathered around Jack and Anna. The banker of all people started the applause. Soon the whole street was cheering not for Cemetery Jack, not even for Sheriff Callahan, but for the man who'd stood between them and tyranny, whatever form it took. That evening, as Jack and Anna sat on their porch watching the sunset, she felt the baby move for the first time. She grabbed Jack's hand, placed it on her stomach. "Feel that?" Jack's eyes widened as he felt the flutter of movement. "That's our child. That's our future," Anna corrected. "Everything we're building is for that little life. What if I fail? What if I can't protect—" "You won't be alone," Anna interrupted. "You have me, the town, even Samuel and his people. We're all connected now, all part of something bigger." 3 months later, on a cold December morning, with snow falling like a benediction, Anna gave birth to a son. They named him Samuel Jackson Callahan Samuel for the Apache leader who'd become an unlikely friend Jackson for Jack's father, who died when he was young. As Jack held his son for the first time, the baby's tiny fingers wrapping around his scarred thumb, he thought about the journey that had brought him here. From the blood-soaked fields of Antietam to the violence of the range wars, from the loneliness of Cemetery. Jack to this moment holding new life while snow fell peaceful outside. "He's perfect," Anna said, exhausted but radiant. "He's a miracle," Jack agreed. "Our miracle." The door opened and Barnes peered in. "Sorry to interrupt, but the whole town's waiting for news." "Tell them mother and child are doing fine," Doc Harrison said, washing his hands. "And tell them Sheriff Callahan is now a father." The cheer that went up could be heard 3 streets away. As the years passed, Bitter Creek grew and prospered. The railroad came through, bringing new families and opportunities. Jack remained sheriff with Anna as his deputy, and together they maintained peace through strength and compassion in equal measure. Young Sam Callahan grew up strong and kind, learning to shoot from his mother and to think before shooting from his father. He played with Apache children when Samuel's band learned Spanish from the Mexican families who settled nearby, and understood that protecting people meant protecting all people. On the boy's 5th birthday, as the town celebrated in the church hall, Anna found Jack standing outside looking at the stars. "What are you thinking about?" "That night you asked to sleep beside me." How everything changed from that moment. "Regrets?" Jack pulled her close. "Not one. Every hard day, every fight, every challenge, it all led here. To this life we built." "The life we're still building," Anna corrected. "I'm pregnant again." Jack spun her around, laughing with pure joy. Another child, another chance to add something good to the world. As they walked back into the celebration, their son running to meet them, with chocolate cake on his face and happiness in his eyes, Jack thought about what the colonel had said all those years ago. The past is a grave. Stop digging in it and build something for the living. He'd built something, all right. With Anna beside him, he'd built a family, a community, a legacy of justice that would outlast them all. The man who'd been Cemetery Jack, who'd carried death like a shadow, had become Sheriff Jack Callahan, husband, father protector. And it had all started with a desperate woman's simple question on a dangerous night. "Can I sleep beside you, cowboy?" The answer had been yes then. It was yes now. It would be yes for all the years they had together, building something beautiful from the ashes of their broken pasts. In the church hall, the town sang, "For He's a Jolly Good Fellow," as Jack and Anna danced with their son between them, another child on the way, surrounded by friends who'd become family. Outside, snow began to fall again, covering the harsh prairie in soft white, hiding the scars of old battles under a blanket of peace. Bitter Creek had become what Anna had seen it could be that first day, not just a place to hide or survive, but a home. A place where broken people could heal, where strangers could become family, where the past could be overcome by choosing to build a better future. And at the center of it all were Jack and Anna Callahan. Proof that sometimes the most unlikely love stories were the ones that changed everything. They'd started with nothing but desperation and a shared understanding of loneliness. They'd built from that a life of purpose, love, and hope that would echo through generations. As the celebration continued into the night, Jack stood with his family, his badge catching the lamplight, his scarred face soft with contentment. He'd been a soldier, a killer, a ghost of a man. Now he was a sheriff, a husband, a father, but most importantly, he was home. And it had all begun with a question, a choice, and the courage to let someone in when it would have been easier to stay alone. "Can I sleep beside you, cowboy?" Forever and always, the answer was yes.